Chapter 1241. P.S. Here's today's update. And by the way, I'd like to solicit votes for the Chidian 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and the voting also gives some coins. I beg for your support and appreciation. Suyu frowned slightly. To be honest, he was deeply afraid of the resourceful 6th princess. She was not only smart, but also extremely powerful. When the all-access merchant god was in her hands, he had no power to resist. In terms of real combat power, she should be able to compete with the Dakini. With such a person around, he really didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse. However, this was the discussion of the royal family members, and Suyu could not change it. He could only accept it. Okay, the day of the coup is the day I will go to the Demon Emperor. The only way to leave the demon realm is through the ancient altar of the Demon Emperor. In the end, they will meet in the Demon Emperor. After sending away the princes and princesses, only the 6th princess stayed. Hee, it seems that you're going to elope with all the members of our royal family, the 6th princess teased, smiling sweetly, and her bright eyes were full of wisdom. Suyu said thoughtfully, "Are you sure you will lose?" "I don't think so, right? Since you decided to coup, I don't believe that you have no backup plan." The 6th princess smiled and said, "Of course there is, but I won't tell you." Like a fawn, she jumped lightly to Gua and stroked him with a smile, but Gua grimaced at her. A few months ago, the 6th princess wanted her life. Suyu would not ask about their backup plan, but there was one thing he had to ask. "6th princess, do you have the seed of the golden flames forbidden wood?" Suyu turned his head and said calmly. The 6th princess was slightly stunned, but after rolling her eyes, she said with a smile, "Call me Jing Xian." Suyu said, "This is not a trivial matter. I'm not joking. I want to hear you call me Jing Xian." "6th princess, please be serious. Call me Jing Xian." "Jing Xian, the seed of the golden flames forbidden wood. Of course, it is in my hands. Do you want it?" Suyu was not used to this eccentric princess and said in a deep voice, "Yes. I can give you what you want in exchange." "I refuse." The 6th princess, with her hands behind her back, refused decisively with a smile. The result was not out of Suyu's expectations. After all, it was the seed of the first divine tree of the demonic dimension, and there was only one left. How could it be exchanged so easily? Forget it then. The seed of the golden flames forbidden would could only change the passive situation, but couldn't determine the final outcome. It would be best if he did, but if not, there was nothing he could do. "Come and take it yourself," the 6th princess said with a smile, her eyes full of teasing. "A seed that is about to die has no exchange value. If you want it, you can take it yourself." Suyu was slightly pleased. This 6th princess was not so hateful after all. "Where?" "Here." The 6th princess raised a pair of well-proportioned snowy peaks the size of a fist and pointed to her chest. Around her snow-white neck, there seemed to be something hanging from a red string that extended to her chest. She always carried the seed with her. This woman gave Suyu a headache. Was she teasing him again? "If you don't mind, I won't hold back." Suyu quickly walked up to her and pressed down on her shoulder, while his other hand reached into her collar without hesitation. The 6th princess was mischievous. How could she expect Suyu to be so decisive? She was shocked and hurriedly covered her chest and stepped back. She was ashamed and angry. "How dare you? Didn't you ask me to take it?" Suyu said lightly. The 6th princess was a little angry and amused. She pulled out the pendant and threw it to Suyu from dozens of feet away. She dared not approach Suyu again for fear that Suyu would do what he did just now. After throwing away the pendant, she stomped her feet and teleported away. She snorted, "I will watch you. Don't think you can go far." He grabbed the pendant. There was a faint body temperature and the fragrance of a young girl left on it. He crushed the metal pendant, and a dim golden seed appeared in front of him. A very weak vitality fluctuated from within the seed. If he didn't deliberately observe it, he could hardly feel this vitality. It has been damaged to this extent. Suyu frowned and immediately moved his mind. He brought the seed into the 9-jade spiritual pearl and buried it in the supreme growing soil. After a moment of silent observation, Suyu was slightly relieved. The vitality that was slowly flowing away in the seed gradually stabilized and showed a slight increase. It's still not too late. If it was a few days later, the supreme growing soil couldn't be saved. So you felt a little lucky. Looking at the situation, it could germinate in half a month. As for maturity, it depends on the attribute of the golden flame's forbidden wood. He instructed Shungu to take care of the seed and not let it be eaten by the chaotic multicolored butterfly. Suyu returned to his body. When he opened his eyes, a furry head was in front of him at a close distance. Suyu opened his eyes and was startled. He stumbled and rolled clumsily. "What are you doing?" Suyu flicked the puppy's head in annoyance. The puppy held the head with two front paws, rubbed it, and said angrily, "Nothing." It witnessed the sixth princess adjusting Suyu's breath and saw that Suyu actually did something to the sixth princess. For some reason, it felt that its things had been taken away by the sixth princess. This kind of uncomfortable feeling made it very strange. After Suyu's soul left the body, it curiously came up to look at Suyu. As a result, it was shocked by Suyu. Suyu rolled his eyes at it and was about to get up. A divine fluctuation flashed in front of him without warning. "Feather Demon, why haven't you seen the princess yet? It has been half a month." Kaylin's cold voice came. She still had a kind smile on her face, but compared to the last time, she was a little more alert. The 9 princes and princesses were gathered here, and the 6th princess stayed, which made her suspicious. Suyu asked, "Hey, Senior Kaylin, did you go back to reports so soon?" He pretended not to know that he had been surrounded. Kaylin laughed. The purple-eyed demonic god came to inquire about the existence of the 4 of them. How could they not notice? Looking at Suyu pretending to be crazy, Kaylin sneered in her heart. It seemed that he had noticed something and was vigilant. "Well, the princess ordered you to go to the imperial capital to see her quickly," Kaylin urged. Suyu looked embarrassed. "Senior, I have some important things to deal with. I don't have time to go to the imperial capital for the time being." "What important things?" "The Jingyu realm has been stabilized, and the affairs have been handed over to the luminous Moon City Master. If there is nothing important, you can come with me now." The kindness on Kaylin's face faded a lot. Suyu said, "I need to cultivate. I have just broken through to the mortal fairy realm, and my realm is not stable enough. If I don't hurry up, I am afraid that my realm will slip. This is related to my future, and it is not my intention to delay. Please forgive me." Kaylin was so angry that she laughed. In the demon world, who dared to delay when Princess Yunxiao wanted to see someone? Only this Suyu from the Xing River. However, Princess Yunxiao had specifically told her not to push him too much. It seemed that the princess had some scruples. Although she was angry, Kaylin could not force him. She said with a blank expression, "How long will it take?" "Well, half a year." "Too long. The princess won't wait long." "Then 3 months it is." Kaylin pondered for a moment and said, 2 months, no longer." "Good." Kaylin stared at Suyu meaningfully. "I hope you know what to do." "Humph. What a rude guy." Guwa stared at her angrily. Suyu's eyes turned cold. "A little impatience spoils great plans. When the time is right, I will teach her a lesson. Don't run around. I need to cultivate in isolation during this time." Suyu's eyes flashed slightly. The 9 princes and princesses were about to launch a coup d'état that would shock the demon world. It was impossible to know how many city masters the 9 princes and princesses had gathered together to stage a coup d'état, and it was even more impossible to know if other forces would join in. The only thing that could be expected was that there would be a violent shock in the demon world. Originally, Suyu planned to do it himself and create turmoil in the demon world to buy time for the creatures of the Xing River. Unexpectedly, the demon world had been brewing a greater turmoil. Once the coup began, whether successful or not, the demon world would experience unprecedented upheavals. With internal instability, the demon world would have no time to invade the Great Eastern Alliance, which could buy time for the Great Eastern Alliance. Entering the secret room, Suyu began to cultivate in isolation. His cultivation had been consolidated as early as half a month ago, but he had no time to deal with the harvest of the Jingyu realm. The imitation of the Emperor-based Saint artifact given by the Demon Cloud City Master, the Pink Skull. The pure celestial energy sphere given by the Bo Ming City Master. And the Dead Soul Worm given by the Abyss City Master. All three were excellent things, especially the pure celestial energy sphere and the Dead Soul Worm. Grabbing the celestial energy sphere, Suyu slowly guided it into his body. They were very gently divided into two pieces, each integrated into Suyu's two celestial energy spheres. The celestial energy sphere, which was only a grain of brilliance, quickly grew 5 times and became a finger-sized swirling galaxy. A large amount of the mortal fairy's strength was swallowed by the two celestial energy spheres, which then released divine power. Ordinary perspective gods only had one celestial energy sphere, but Suyu had 2, and the speed of releasing divine power was twice as fast as theirs. Clearly, he had not broken through to the realm of gods, but the divine power in Suyu's body had reached the early stage of perspective gods. Now, without relying on any treasures, Suyu could fight with an early stage perspective god alone. Saving me more than a year of cultivation. The Bo Ming City Master really treats me well. Suyu laughed. Then there was the Dead Soul Worm given by the Abyss City Master, an ancient spiritual worm sealed in the ancient mysterious ice. He clearly remembered that the Demon Cloud City Master and the Bo Ming City Master were deeply afraid of this worm. He could not forget that when he first saw this worm, the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron issued a warning. Even in the face of gods, the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron had never warned him like this. This worm was Suyu's biggest gain. Holding the mysterious ice, Suyu's eyes were fixed. How great was this worm? With a thought, Suyu tried to separate a part of his soul into the mysterious ice to detect the worm. But at this moment, the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron trembled violently, alerting Suyu. On his forehead, the evil god's shadow also jumped out and hurriedly shouted, "Quickly withdraw your soul." The Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron and the evil god warned him at the same time, and Suyu did not dare to be careless and immediately withdrew his soul. At the moment when it was withdrawn, Suyu keenly captured that the body of the Dead Soul Worm flashed a cold consciousness. It felt like a little white rabbit being coldly stared at by a giant tiger. Hiss! Suyu couldn't help but shudder, and his heart was aghast. Is the Dead Soul Worm so terrible? He had seen many secret soul techniques, but none of them made Suyu's soul feel such fear. The evil god breathed a sigh of relief and stared at the worm in the ancient mysterious ice. His eyelids twitched slightly, and he subconsciously moved away from it. He looked at Suyu seriously and said, "You were too careless just now, and you almost failed. Fortunately, you reacted quickly. Otherwise, even if your master was here, he could not save you." Chapter 1242. P.S. Here's today's update. And, at the same time, I'd like to solicit votes for the Chidian 5/15 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and the votes will be given some coins. Indeed, I was careless. Suyu said, if the Nine-Dragon Cauldron had not been so eager to wake up, the cold consciousness just now would have caused unimaginable damage. No wonder the Demon Cloud City Master and the Bo Ming City Master were so afraid of this worm. Staring at the Dead Soul Worm, Suyu asked, "Evil God, what is the Dead Soul Worm? You should have heard of the list of 10,000 races of the starry sky, right?" The evil god said enigmatically. Suyu nodded. "I have heard of it. It is rumored that there are tens of thousands of creatures in the starry sky. 10,000 is just an imaginary number. There are more than 10,000 creatures in the starry sky, more than 1,000,000. The evil god looked calm and said something Suyu had never heard of. Millions of creatures are divided into upper, middle, and lower 3 classes according to their natural strength, collectively known as the 9 classes. Suyu vaguely heard the demon god mention this saying. It seems that the human race belongs to the bottom of the 3 classes. So, the creatures in the Xing River are also divided into 9 classes? This Dead Soul Worm belongs to the higher class? Suyu somewhat understood the evil god's meaning, but the evil god shook his head. 2 corrections. First, The creatures in the Xing River are all lower class. The human race you belong to is a ninth-class race. A few races, such as the Shang deity and the Dakini, belong to the 8th-class race, and the demon race belongs to the 7th-class race. Second, the dead soul worm is not only of a higher class, it is very high class. It belongs to the 3rd-class creatures. So you clicked his tongue. The human race was indeed a 9th-class existence at the bottom. Moreover, the demon race's class was above all the creatures in the Xing River, which was why the demon race's individual strength was unusually strong. The human race was really weak. Moreover, the dead soul worm in front of you is extremely special. Although it has been frozen for thousands of years, and most of its life has dissipated, its consciousness still remains. Not to mention you, even the demon emperor would lose half of his life if he was hit by it. So you was surprised. No way, such a terrible thing. The Abyss City Master was willing to give it to me? So you questioned. The evil god said, that's because he didn't know that it was a dead soul worm. But he didn't know that it was a divine worm that had failed its tribulation. Tribulation? Could it be that even gods have to undergo tribulation? The evil god rolled his eyes and said meaningfully, gods have different levels of strength. Naturally, they have to go through the tribulation. This dead soul worm should be a divine worm that failed to become a medium god, a middle-level deity. So you heard a piece of extremely fresh news. The evil god said, gods are divided into lower gods, middle gods, and upper gods. They are all gods, but there is a difference between the three. It can be said that they are not on the same level at all. All you need to know is that demigods are bestowed by gods, and gods are bestowed by high gods. So Yu's eyes flickered slightly. Are you saying that the person in charge of the lower gods is a middle god? He recalled that he had undergone 2 divine tribulations in a row. Could it be that the mysterious manipulator was a mid-level deity? How many gods are there in our galaxy? The demon emperor, the death deity, or the Dakini? So you asked. Uft. The evil god snorted disdainfully. What kind of medium gods are they? They haven't even touched the threshold of the mid-level deity. As for how many mid-level deities there are in the galaxy, the answer is 0, the evil god said solemnly. The galaxy is too small to nurture a mid-level deity. As strong as the demon emperor and the death deity, they were still lower gods. How powerful were the mid-level deities? This dead soul worm is a mid-level deity worm that failed to go through the tribulations. Its strength when it was alive, the demon emperor and the death deity were not worth mentioning in front of it. Even if it was dead, the remnant of its consciousness could take away half of their lives. The evil god stared at the 10,000 years mysterious ice with fear. You really got a great deal this time. It's best to use it for self-defense. Unfortunately, it can only be used once. You need to be careful. After getting some clarification, so you carefully put away the dead soul worm. This was a great killing weapon that no one knew about. Once it was thrown out, the effect would be. Suyu's confidence improved a lot. Finally, there was the pink skull, a replica of the Emperor Baisane artifact. It contained an extremely powerful psychedelic effect. Even deities would be confused if their minds were not strong enough. Its refining process was not complicated, and it was finished easily. Half a month later, Suyu sighed softly. It's done. With a thought, Suyu's soul entered the 9 jade spiritual pearl and looked at the nursery. A golden bud was shining all over, as if it was carved out of gold. Around the bud, there were layers of warm flames burning. Young master, what is this? The chaos multicolored butterfly is very eager for it. If I hadn't held it back, it would have been eaten by it. Shunga looked at it curiously. Suyu was slightly delighted. Good stuff. Let the chaos multicolored butterfly bear with it for the time being. When it matures and harvests enough seeds, I will plant a batch for it to eat. As he spoke, Suyu looked at another nursery. A towering silver bamboo stood majestically. Around it were dense silver bamboos that were 30 feet long. Suyu stared at the strongest one. After many years of cultivation, Suyu had not touched the first mature heavenly orchid silver bamboo. He wanted to see how far the heavenly orchid silver bamboo could grow after it matured. However, from the looks of it, Other than its exaggerated body shape, which was gradually becoming more and more different from the historical records, there was nothing special about it. Suyu looked away and teleported away with his soul. As soon as he left, the chaos multicolored butterfly rushed into the nursery again and devoured the world's spiritual treasures. Now in the nursery, except for the seedlings of the golden flames, forbidden wood, the only thing that could attract it was the heavenly orchid silver bamboo. However, what Suyu and Shangge did not notice was that the chaos multicolored butterfly was devouring all the heavenly orchid silver bamboos, but avoided the largest one. Vaguely, there was a trace of fear. His soul returned to his body. Suyu took out the 5 Elements mountain and continued to meditate. Just as he was about to move, a 5-colored pagoda appeared uninvited and hovered in front of Suyu. What? Suyu raised his eyebrows and stared at a small black-green water dragon that emerged from the 5-colored pagoda. What are you doing here? I didn't summon you, did I? Since the reminder of the demon gods remains in the belly of the 5 Elements mountain, Suyu had been very cautious about the black-green water dragon. Since then, he had never used the 5 Elements divine prison again. Boy, let's make a deal. For some reason, the black-green water dragon's body was much more solid than before. Once it appeared, it seemed to have a deep meaning. What kind of deal do we have? Of course. For example, you're in need of help now. I can activate 30% of the power of the 5 Elements divine prison to help you get out of here. 50%? Suyu's pupils constricted. Previously, the black-green water dragon could suppress peak mortal fairies with only 10% of its power. Now it could triple its power. Suyu squinted his eyes. It seemed that the black-green water dragon had recovered part of its body through some unknown method, and its control of the 5 Elements divine prison had greatly increased. However, Suyu would not tell it that after many days of training, Suyu's comprehension of the hundreds of Demon Clan's characters had exceeded 30% and reached 50%. If they really competed for control, the black-green water dragon might not win against Suyu. Now that the black-green water dragon suddenly appeared, it must have other intentions. Okay, but what do you want me to do? The black-green water dragon said, It's very simple. Banish me to the Xing River, and from then on, I will have nothing to do with you. Okay, Suyu agreed readily. The black-green water dragon's eyes flashed with a strange color. Taking back the 5 Elements divine prison, Suyu's eyes were cold. Black-green water dragon, if you're honest and content with your duties, it's okay. If you have ulterior motives, don't blame me for erasing you forever. Time passed, and Suyu had been in the 5 Elements divine prison for a month. His refinement of the 5 Elements mountain had entered the final stage, and it should not be long before he could completely refine the 5 Elements mountain. In this month, the seed of the golden flames forbidden wood grew a lot, and it was already 1 foot long. Its growth rate was much faster than expected. At the same time, in this month, the princes and princesses of all parties seemed to be silent, but in fact, they were frequently moving, and the connections between the parties were closer. The city masters in their world were frequently mobilized. Some of the city masters were arranged to perform tasks in distant places, and some were summoned to the princes and princesses. The silent war horn was quietly blowing in the demon world. Half a month later, the 2-month period was up. Cauldron did not wait for a moment and immediately appeared in front of Suyu's secret room. Time is up. Come with me to see Princess Yunxia. I'm sorry. I have reached a critical moment in my cultivation, and I need to retreat for another 2 months. In the secret room, Suyu said lightly. Cauldron's eyebrows twisted, and her face was completely pulled down. Feathered demon, don't be ungrateful. Princess Yunxia wants to see you. It's your good fortune. Don't push your luck. So, are you going to capture me? Suyu asked instead of answering. A trace of murderous intent flashed between Cauldron's eyebrows. She was not a soft-hearted person. Over the years, she had secretly killed many disobedient gods for Princess Yunxia. However, Suyu was different. Princess Yunxia's special instructions made Cauldron have to restrain herself. 1 month. After 1 month, if you don't get up, you will have to bear the consequences. Cauldron threatened. From the first kind smile to the later urging, and today's threat, their true attitude gradually revealed itself. In the secret room, Suyu's eyes flashed with cold light. He was waiting for the golden flames, forbidden wood. Using the unique cultivation ability of the supreme growing soil, the golden flames forbidden wood had grown strong and was now 3 feet tall. Looking at the situation, it would mature in another 3 months. If there was the golden flames forbidden wood, many things would be easier. In the past month, Suyu continued to comprehend the 5 elements mountain and had successfully refined most of it, mastering many uses of the 5 elements mountain. In addition, Suyu had his own divine power, and the power of the 5 elements mountain had reached a new level. Time is getting tight. I don't know if I can delay until 3 months later, Suyu whispered softly. 3 months later, it was also the time for the 9 princes and princesses to launch a coup. At the same time, in the Xing River, a huge warship was sailing in the vast Xing River, heading quickly towards the west of the Xing River. On the ship were the Sheng deity and Sheng Yuanxin, whom Suyu was familiar with, as well as 2 or 3 gods who had participated in the world of divine remains. After the destruction of the world of divine remains, they returned to the Great Eastern Alliance, which was exciting and won a surprise from the alliance of 100 gods. The sinful land that had been harmed by them was destroyed, and many people got what they wanted. In addition to their joy, their confidence in resisting the invasion of the demon world multiplied, and they held several gods' meetings to actively discuss anti-demon measures. The most important one was to unite all the forces that could be united. For this purpose, 2 troops were dispatched. Chapter 1243. P.S. Here's today's update. And, at the same time, I'd like to solicit votes for the Qidian 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and the votes will be given some coins. I beg for everyone's support and appreciation. A group of troops led by the all-access merchant god was looking for the cavern worlds scattered in the galaxy and striving to gather them into the alliance. A group of troops led by the Sheng deity went to the distant Great Western Alliance. As a representative of the Great Eastern Alliance, the Sheng deity went to the Great Western Alliance with the purpose of forming an alliance to fight against the restless demon realm. On the giant battleship, the deities had finished their discussion and dispersed. All of them were full of confidence. Sheng Yuanxin was the only prospective god on the ship. After 2 years, she had successfully broken through to become a mid-level prospective god. It was clear that she had benefited a lot from the trip to the world of divine remains. Mother, in front of us is the old site of Su Yu's world of divine remains, Sheng Yuanxin said leisurely. The Sheng deity looked at her daughter's frown and sighed softly. Falling into the demon realm, the possibility of survival is almost 0. Don't expect him to still be alive. Put your mind on cultivation and strive to break through to the late-stage prospective god before the demon realm attacks. Sheng Yuanxin clenched her fists tightly. I believe he won't die. After all, the demon realm may not necessarily die. However, I am afraid that he will return to the Great Eastern Alliance. If he comes back and sees the current situation of the Great Eastern Alliance, what will he think? In her words, there was deep anger and guilt. Yuanxin, he fell into the demon realm, and there is no possibility of survival. It is reasonable for the Dakini to transfer everything he has to the newly cultivated juniors to manage. Sheng Yuanxin smiled bitterly. Reasonable? If it wasn't for Su Yu, how many spies of the demon realm did our Great Eastern Alliance infiltrate? If it wasn't for Su Yu, who was responsible for destroying the world of divine remains. As a result, his life and death are unknown, and the Dakini took the initiative to hand over all the things he left in the alliance to others. Nothing could be more heartless than this. Mother, you might as well ask the people on the street if they think it is reasonable. Complaints about this matter were monstrous in the streets. Su Yu's actions for the Great Eastern Alliance were witnessed by all the creatures in the heavens. Su Yu's whereabouts were unknown, and he was treated like this. The Sheng deity was silent. Not only the people on the street, but also among the gods were indignant. Who wouldn't complain about such treatment of the alliance's backbone? However, that was the Dakini's decision. As the first god of the alliance, No one dared to oppose her. If I were Su Yu, I would betray the Great Eastern Alliance immediately if I found out that I was treated like this. Sheng Yuanxin said deeply, I really feel bad for him. He was originally an outsider of the Alliance, but he did so much for us, even sacrificing himself for us. But what did we do? The sacred god was left speechless and bitter. If it were her, she would also betray him. Forget it. There's no way he'll come back. Let's just say that we've let him down. I'll do my best to get a cenotaph for him in the God Legion tomb, so that he can join the Legion of Gods. Sheng Yuanxin just smiled. Everything had been taken away, so what was the point of leaving only a cenotaph? In silence, the giant ship silently glided toward the Great Western Alliance. In the Devil World, 1 month passed in a flash. The seedling of the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood was already 3 meters tall. It was as thick as an arm, and it was half mature. Although only 3 months had passed in the outside world, the nurturing of the supreme growing soil was equivalent to 200 years of age, so it was reasonable for it to reach a semi-mature state. In another 2 months, it should be able to reach 400 years of age, enough to be fully mature. The first divine wood of the Devil World, Su Yu is full of expectations. However, when a wave of divine light came from outside the secret room, Su Yu raised his eyebrows. He was afraid that it would be difficult to delay until 2 months later. Feather Demon, it's time to go. Kaylin stood coldly outside the secret room, her patience completely exhausted. Su Yu opened the door of the secret room and said, Okay, but I have to go somewhere. Kaylin frowned. You still want to delay time? If you don't trust me, you can follow me. Su Yu left the secret room, took out the flying demonic artifact, and slowly headed toward the bitter sea. Kaylin was furious. Feather Demon, there is a limit to my patience. She endured it again and again, but Su Yu was still delaying time. He turned his head and looked at her lightly. When a Sea Princess Yunxia is up to me, when do I need to see your face? Kaylin was furious and stared at Su Yu, her eyes flashing with hidden murderous intent. If it weren't for Princess Yunxia, with her identity, who couldn't kill except the members of the royal family. However, she couldn't do anything to Su Yu. Okay, I want to see what you're waiting for. Half a month later, at the edge of the bitter sea, Kaylin said coldly, You've been wandering leisurely for half a month, and the so-called place you want to go is here? The bitter sea has no scenery for you to see. Oh, can I see the sea? Su Yu shrugged and walked aimlessly along the bitter sea coast. Until half a month later, Kaylin finally lost her last bit of patience. All 3 of you come here. Kaylin stared at Su Yu's back and shook her head. With a whoosh, 3 waves of divine light appeared around them. They were Princess Yunxia's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th maids. He has become suspicious and is unwilling to go to see Princess Yunxia. You guard him and don't let him go far. I will ask the princess. Kaylin said bluntly in front of Su Yu. She had already completely torn off all pretense of cordiality. If he wants to escape, don't be polite, just break his legs. Kaylin's tone suddenly became cold, and no longer concealed her murderous intent. Yes. The 3 maids also stared at Su Yu coldly, their pretty faces flashing with a few traces of viciousness. After Kaylin left, the 3 maids dispersed. 2 of them guarded the surroundings, and one of them stared at Su Yu. The one who stared at Su Yu was the 2nd maid. She crossed her arms and looked at Su Yu coldly. It's rare to see someone who can be so valued by the princess. Unfortunately, you don't know how to appreciate favors. Su Yu strolled in the courtyard and said calmly, This kind of attention that is watched by others, I don't need it. Oh, you're quite clear. The 2nd maid did not hide it and looked up and down at Su Yu. Do you know how excited the princess was when she saw you? It was the first time I found that the princess had abnormal behavior. You must have something that the princess has been longing for a long time. The Milky Way star sand? Su Yu's heart was like a mirror. He secretly said, Senior Tianjizi, you are wrong about me. Well, don't go anymore. Sit here obediently and wait for the eldest sister to send back the news. The 2nd maid shouted. Su Yu stopped and sat cross-legged on the edge of the bitter sea. He picked up the stones on the beach and threw them into the bitter sea. When the stones fell in, They were immediately corroded into nothingness. The second maid caught a glimpse of this scene and sneered. She thought that Suyu had no other choice but to sit and wait for death. Time passed slowly, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Finally, the communication jade pendants on the three maids emitted a rapid beeping sound at the same time. It's the eldest sister's message. Strange, why is it an emergency message? The three maids were surprised. The emergency message was only launched at a very critical time because it would destroy the jade pendants. The cracking sound of the three jade pendants breaking sounded at the same time, followed by 3 exposed telepathic messages. The voice was cold and full of endless coldness. The princess has ordered, cut off the hands of the feather demon, imprison his soul, and return to the imperial capital immediately, without delay. Kalen's cold words lingered in the air, shaking people's hearts. The three maids were stunned. They thought that the princess would order to forcibly capture Suyu. But now, she asked them to cut off his hands, destroy his body, and imprison his soul? Such a cruel method would only be used to deal with the most heinous criminals. After calming down, the three maids stared coldly at Suyu. They would not have the slightest pity or sympathy. It seems that you angered the princess and ended up like this. You can only blame yourself. The second maid's mouth was full of sarcasm, and her eyes were full of murderous intent. The third and fourth maids used their divine power to block the direction of Suyu's escape. The second maid was responsible for the action. With a flick of her fingers, pure golden divine power, like a sickle, cut Suyu's palms. This was what the princess was most concerned about. Cut off the hands and do not damage them. Suyu was secretly shocked. What a decisive woman. She immediately ordered to cut off Suyu's hands. It seemed that Princess Yunxia knew where the Milky Way star sand was most likely to be attached. A ray of cold light flashed through his eyes. Suyu reacted extremely quickly. Even when the three maids were still in a daze, he had already started. Gold! Suyu shouted, and the majestic power of the 5 elements burst out from his body, surrounding Suyu. Gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. The power of the 5 attributes combined with each other, and all 5 elements were transformed into the power of gold. The power of gold was integrated into Suyu's body. Suddenly, Suyu's whole body was metallized. The sickle divine power cut Suyu's arms and made a friction sound, but failed to cut off Suyu's arms for a while. This was the result of Suyu's refinement of the 5 elements mountain. The second maid was slightly stunned. She expected that this blow could easily cut off Suyu's hands. However, everyone below the gods were ants. Even if Suyu had the strength to kill a late-stage prospective god, it was still not worth mentioning. Her eyes flickered, and the sickle transformed by the divine power suddenly soared several times. The power of gold in Suyu's body could not bear it and was broken in an instant. The huge sickle that soared not only cut Suyu's hands, but also his body into 2. Without waiting for the second maid to show a sarcastic expression, her face froze. Suyu's body was indeed divided into 2, but at the moment of separation, Suyu formed a seal with both hands. Water! His body that was cut off turned into a person condensed by water. The golden sickle pierced through, like passing through a mass of water, and passed through Suyu's body without causing any harm. You are really difficult to deal with. The second maid was secretly shocked. The golden sickle suddenly divided into 10 parts, containing a biting force, and divided Suyu's water body into 10 parts. Earth! At the critical moment, Suyu spat out a word. Sure enough, his body was chopped into 10 pieces, and each piece turned into soil, falling to the ground in a large amount. Not good. He escaped into the ground. The second maid's face was livid. She was a god, but she couldn't do anything to a mortal fairy junior in 3 moves. The third and fourth maids shot the divine light into the sky. In a short time, Suyu used the earth escape technique to teleport to an endless distance. Chase! If we don't kill this person, none of us will go back alive. The second maid shouted coldly. Princess Yunxia never raised trash, and the 10 maids were never fixed maids. Who knows how many maids have been replaced during this period? Those who have been replaced, without a doubt, have become a pile of dirt. If Suyu didn't die, they would. Swish! The three gods teleported and chased after Suyu with all their might. The situation finally developed to the final step, and Suyu had to leave the demon realm. Chapter 1244. Where are you going? Suyu teleported, and the divine light fluctuated, and the three maids instantly caught up. It was completely impossible for non-gods to escape from the hands of the gods. Above the earth, the soil squirmed and condensed into the shape of Suyu. As soon as he appeared, Suyu's whole body flashed with five-color divine light, and he controlled the power of the five elements to teleport. The three maids could not stop him, and they gritted their teeth and chased. They did not notice that the place where Suyu had stayed had a drop of golden divine blood, containing the unique breath of the royal family of the demon race. Teleporting again, the three maids appeared one step ahead of Suyu, condensing the divine power to seal Suyu. However, at this moment, two waves of divine light suddenly appeared. Giggle, three moves in the hands of the gods, and escape twice. There is no one else in the demon world who can do this, right? An eccentric, pretty face appeared. Beside her was the purple-eyed, demonic god. After the two appeared, they naturally broke the seal of divine power. Purple-eyed, demonic god, and the sixth princess. The pupils of the three maids shrank slightly. The purple-eyed, demonic god did not say anything, but the sixth princess actually made a move. In the royal family, second only to the eldest prince, how terrible her strength was always an unknown mystery. We were ordered by Princess Yunxia to capture the Lord of Seawatch City and bring him back to the Demon Emperor. Since you two did not know, we can let bygones be bygones. Retreat immediately and do not hinder us. The second maid shouted. The sixth princess's crystal eyes narrowed into a crescent. Oh, we knew that Princess Yunxia would do something to the demon. So we decided to take action. So what if we disobeyed Princess Yunxia? What are you going to do to me? The purple-eyed demonic god also nodded gently. I advise you, there is no need to seek your own death. The pupils of the three maids shrank. How could they have expected that the sixth princess and the purple-eyed demonic god dared to openly defy Princess Yunxia? You are rebelling. The second maid was shocked and scolded. The sixth princess's eyes gradually became cold. Oh, you are right. We are rebelling. Boom. The sixth princess turned into a streamer and suddenly shot. The second maid's scalp was numb, and she hurriedly shouted, Sixth princess, the purple-eyed demonic god has rebelled. Kill without mercy. The three maids had no mind to care about Suyu, and turned to deal with the decisive sixth princess. In the blink of an eye, both sides clashed. The three maids were the powerhouses carefully selected by Princess Yunxia. Among the deities, they were also the top existences. However, as soon as the fight began, the three of them were all blown away by the sixth princess. The fourth maid was directly destroyed in body and soul. Only the celestial source origin was held by the sixth princess's bloody hand. There is a hint of cruelty on her pretty face as she swallowed the divine origin in front of everyone. She licked her lips as if she had not had enough. Hee, how delicious. Such a scene caused everyone to shudder with fear. Even Suyu squinted his eyes. Fourth sister. The second maid screamed in grief and stared at the sixth princess with hatred. But he quickly issued a decisive order. Split up and go back to report to the princess. The sixth princess and the purple-eyed demonic god have rebelled and request the Holy Magic Hall to take action. Their messaging jade pendants had been destroyed in the previous emergency communication, so they couldn't quickly inform the chief handmaiden. They could only find a city and use the means of communication there to announce this matter to the world. Whoosh! The two of them split up and teleported away. The sixth princess had residual golden blood on the corner of her mouth, and her eyes showed a cruel arc. I can't let you escape. Swish! Her figure flashed, and she chased after the second maid. The purple-eyed demonic god looked at the second maid meaningfully. The sixth princess, if not handled well, will be a hidden danger. Little friend, you have to be prepared. Suyu's eyes also narrowed. The sixth princess was like an uncontrollable tiger. She was ruthless and unpredictable, and her heart was extremely cold. Although he could use her unparalleled strength to accompany her, there was also the possibility of being bitten by her at any time. I have a plan. Suyu said, is it ready? Well, a month after you left, everything has been done according to your instructions. There are no more of us in Sea-Watch City. Suyu nodded slightly. Well, there's no need to go back to Sea-Watch City. We could go straight to the Demon Emperor. The purple-eyed demonic god nodded and looked in the direction of the third maid's escape. It's almost time to go after her. Wait a moment. The purple light flickered, and he quickly chased after her. After a while, the sixth princess and the purple-eyed demonic god appeared almost at the same time. The two maids could not escape and were killed on the spot. Suyu's eyes shone. The purple-eyed demonic god started to chase after the sixth princess for a long time. As a result, it took almost the same time to come back. Moreover, he could quickly kill the third maid. As expected of the purple-eyed demonic god who knew everything, he could predict the enemy's next move at any time, and he could also understand the enemy's various weaknesses. It was terrible to think about fighting with such an enemy. He just didn't know how much of the divine path his heir inherited from the purple-eyed demonic god would be a great help to Suyu. Although they were temporarily killed, their deaths could not be hidden from Princess Yunxia. Suyu looked at the sixth princess. Your betrayal will be speculated by her sooner or later, so go back and strengthen your preparations. I will go to the Demon Emperor with the purple-eyed demonic god. The sixth princess nodded. The reason why she stayed and was responsible for monitoring Suyu was to confirm whether he was really trustworthy. Now that he was ordered to be killed by Princess Yunxia, he must not be Princess Yunxia's people, and she could rest assured that she could cooperate. The coup was imminent, and she really needed to go back and prepare. Good. After a month, we will meet in the Demon Emperor. The sixth princess turned and left. Suyu paused and said, Wait, I have a piece of advice. The sixth princess turned her head and stared at him with a smile. The book god cannot be trusted easily. Anyone who believes in him will be used to death. Suyu said, I advise you to get rid of him immediately, without the slightest hesitation. Well, it can also be considered as getting rid of a strong enemy for me. The sixth princess did not answer. She dared to use the book god, and naturally, she had the book god's weakness. Without the sixth princess, there was no possibility of removing the deity perishing misfortune in the book god's body. If you think you have the weakness of this person, I can only say, sixth princess, you're not far from death. Suyu shook his head and said, This person cannot be controlled. With that, Suyu took out a jade pendant and threw it to the sixth princess. If you trust me, follow the message in the jade pendant. Having said that, Suyu and the purple-eyed demonic god quickly left. The sixth princess glanced at the jade pendant and read the contents. Her eyes turned slightly, and after a moment of contemplation, she raised her palm and patted her chest, and suddenly coughed up a mouthful of divine blood. Her face quickly turned pale, and there was a painful expression on her face. With a teleportation, she returned to Jingxian realm in this state. As soon as she returned to the mansion, the book god greeted her and looked at the sixth princess's injury. Send an order to the city lord who secretly defected to us to come and protect you. The book god said yes. Looking at the back of the book god, the sixth princess's eyes were cold. 7 days later, the demonic clouds were rolling over Sea-Watch City, and the tyrannical atmosphere was rampant. Several gods stood majestically, shocking the spirits of the heavens. The city lord of Sea-Watch City, killing the special envoy of the princess, is a crime that must not be punished. It's the Holy Magic Hall. When did our city lord kill the special envoy of the princess? It must be the people of the Holy Magic Hall who refused to give up after being driven away last time and framed us. Doubts were doubts. But in the face of the monsters of the Holy Magic Hall, no one dared to stand up. Swish! While the creatures of Sea-Watch City were still in shock, several gods descended on the city lord's mansion. The leader was the god who came to assist the demon Cloud City Lord that day. Sure enough, he escaped. After a search, the mansion was empty, leaving only insignificant people. Behind him, there was also a demon whose whole body was blood red, and his eyes were somewhat tyrannical. He said angrily, "You demon, this person is cunning. After killing the special envoy of the princess, he must have escaped, and now he is probably hiding somewhere." Many people in the mansion recognized that the demon in front of them was the demon god of the Holy Magic Hall. It was none other than the demon Cloud City Lord. For some reason, in just half a year, he had changed from a tyrannical demon in the form of the Holy Magic Hall. Humph! The land belonged to the king, so where could he escape to? Issue a first-class wanted order of the Holy Magic Hall to arrest Su Yu and the purple-eyed demonic god. Yes, the demon Cloud City Lord grinned. When he is caught and brought to the Holy Magic Hall, the general must eat him personally. A series of wanted orders were quickly transmitted to every city and every jurisdiction in the demon realm. If he appeared, he would be arrested by the local official forces. After all, no one wanted to be accused of hiding a wanted criminal of the Holy Magic Hall. Under the net of the sky, Su Yu, who had nowhere to hide, appeared in the Demon Emperor. In an unobtrusive, ordinary house, 3 early-stage prospective gods who had traveled in the Demon Emperor capital for half a year were guarding in front of a certain house solemnly. A group of 7 early-stage prospective gods were entering the house in turn. Inside the house, Su Yu sat cross-legged and met them one by one. Among the 100 early-stage prospective gods who were captured that day, 30 of them were taken away by Qian Jun to hide and collect intelligence for Su Yu. The other 70 people were sent to the Demon Emperor by Su Yu as early as half a year ago, and everything was arranged in advance. This shelter had been prepared in advance. No one would doubt that the Yu demon, who was wanted by the demon realm, was actually under the nose of Princess Yunxia. He divided the 70 people into 10 groups, each group of about 7 people, and came to the Demon Emperor in advance to spy on the news and arrange everything he needed. At this moment, they were listening to the news they had spied for half a year. The first thing they spied on was, of course, the way to leave the demon realm, the ancient altar. Reporting to my lord, the altar is guarded by 3 generals of the Holy Magic Hall, and their strength is very high, comparable to the demon Cloud City Lord. Su Yu frowned slightly. Su Yu had seen the strength of the demon Cloud City Lord with his own eyes. The luminous Moon City Lord and the other 3 joined forces, but they were still not his opponent. But this altar, the princes and princesses of the coup would find a way to capture it first as a retreat, so Su Yu did not have to worry about it. The second thing to spy on was the intelligence of the Demon Emperor and Princess Yunxia. Chapter 1245. Su Yu pondered for a moment. Is the Demon Emperor being controlled? The abnormal behavior of the devil world over the past few hundred years could indeed explain some problems. For example, Princess Yunxia dared to kill the 9 children of the Devil Emperor. Was she not afraid of the wrath of the Devil Emperor after he came out? Therefore, this rumor might not be groundless. Once again, it was the Holy Magic Hall that made inquiries. The deities of the Holy Magic Hall are all conferred the title of General. According to their strength, they are divided into 3 levels: heavenly, earthly, and demonic. Su Yu's eyes flickered. What level was the general who came to capture me previously? Sir, it's heaven rank. What about the level of the Demon Cloud City Master? Earth grade. The rest were the lowest level devil generals. Other than that, there's also a commander of the Holy Magic Hall who commands all the generals of the Holy Magic Hall. Commander? Su Yu's eyes shone. Who is it? How's his strength? The commander is the former disciple of the Demon Emperor, the demonic god of 6 paths. His strength. It is said that apart from the Demon Emperor, no one in the demon world is his match. Hearing this, Su Yu's pupil shrank. Even the first prince is no match for him? I don't think so. When the Demon Emperor was in seclusion, the demonic god of 6 paths was in charge of teaching the first prince. In fact, the demonic god of 6 paths was the first prince's master. Su Yu was shocked by the news. Among the 9 princes and princesses, Suyu had only seen the sixth princess, who ranked second, fight. She was already comparable to the Dakini. How strong was the eldest prince? However, the great commander hidden in the Holy Magic Hall was the one who had truly concealed himself well. How was his strength compared to the death deity? Knowing this, Suyu's mood became much heavier. It seemed that it would not be so easy for the 9 princes and princesses to succeed in the coup. All right, so how did you do with the last matter? Suyu asked. The early-stage prospective god, who came to report this time, took out a string of black Buddha beads. It looked very ordinary, but each of the Buddha beads was a cavern world. We didn't disappoint you. After exchanging all the resources that you gave us, we finally managed to find an equipment refinement devil god who was willing to secretly refine the world cavern Buddhist beads for us. Suyu's eyes lit up, and he took it over to inspect it. There were a total of 9 Buddhist beads, each of which was a cavern world. All right, send it to the purple-eyed demonic god outside the imperial capital. Tell him to choose a Buddha bead cavern world to hide in, and then bring the Buddha bead back to me. As a god, the fluctuations of divine power that could not be concealed were too obvious. If he appeared in the Demon Emperor capital, he would be discovered immediately, but hiding in the cavern world would not. In order to forge this small portable cavern world, Suyu had emptied nearly 30% of the resources of the Jinyu realm. Otherwise, no demonic god would dare to forge a small cavern world without permission. After making all the necessary preparations, Suyu said, "Have you found the heir of the purple-eyed demonic god?" Like Suyu, the purple-eyed demonic god began to make preparations as early as half a year ago, hiding his heir in the Demon Emperor's city in advance. "I've found it. It's in the courtyard. Do you want to bring it over?" Suyu thought for a moment, then shook his head. "I don't have time for now. Tell him not to leave the house at will." Yes. When everyone left, Suyu exhaled a breath of foul air. Calculating the time, it would soon be the time for the princes and princesses to launch a coup. This turmoil is the only chance to leave the demon realm. I have no way out. He has been wanted by the entire demon realm. If he does not take this opportunity to escape, there will be no chance to leave again. Looking at the sky, Suyu murmured, "There are still 20 days before the coup. No, only 10 days left." The bitter sea. The sky was blue, and the wind was gentle. Several small beasts were chasing and playing on the shore of the bitter sea. Suddenly, the 2 small beasts seemed to have sensed something, and they ran into the jungle and disappeared without a trace. A large number of birds in the jungle were also startled and flew towards the depths of the mainland in a panic. In the depths of the grass, the chirping insects were silent, as if something taboo was coming. Crash! It was dark and calm, like a smooth mirror of the bitter sea. Near the coast, a bubble the size of a human head suddenly emerged. Then, the bitter sea fell into silence again. However, on the shore where the bubble had appeared, bubbles of the same size appeared strangely. The number was increasing, 1, 2, 3, and finally it was densely packed. Millions of miles of coastline, dense bubbles appeared at the same time. It seemed that the bitter sea was evaporated, and there was a boundless behemoth walking under the bitter sea. Roar! Suddenly, a roar that penetrated the demon world rushed out from the depths of the bitter sea, sweeping hundreds of thousands of feet of water from the bitter sea, and rushed to the shore. Along the way, all the plants and creatures within 1,000,000 miles were destroyed, and the stable demon world was also decayed into endless gaps. The water of the Xing River outside was like the water of the 9 heavens flowing backwards. Groups of hungry and ferocious wild beasts poured into the demon world along the water of the Xing River. Among them, there was a god-level wild beast. However, as soon as it stepped into the demon world, the god-level wild beast stopped abruptly, and its ferocious eyes stared at the bitter sea that was bubbling with hesitation. After thinking for a moment, he slowly withdrew his foot that had stepped into the demon world. It seemed to perceive the existence of an extremely dangerous existence and chose to retreat. Unfortunately, its hesitation cost it its life. A chain as dark as ink suddenly shot out from the bitter sea, splashing a large amount of bitter sea water and decaying the water of the Xing River into bubbles. The wild beasts in the Xing River were also poisoned into nothingness, and none were left. The chain contained a trace of the rules of the Great Way. When the god-level wild beast realized it, it had already been entangled by the chain. Roar! With a scream of horror, the god-level wild beast finally panicked, pulled the chain, turned around, and ran away. But no matter how powerful it was, even if it was at the level of a god, it could not pull the chain at all. Instead, the chain carried the water of the bitter sea into its body, causing it to roar in pain. At the same time, a huge force came from the other end of the chain, dragging the god-level wild beast into the demon world, and it fell into the bitter sea. At the moment when it was about to fall into the bitter sea, suddenly the water of the bitter sea was separated, and a huge 5 Fingers mountain, hundreds of thousands of feet in size, suddenly appeared from the bottom of the bitter sea. Upon a closer look, it was not a mountain, but a giant hand that covered the sky. With a clench of the giant hand, the 10,000 zhang desolate beast was caught in its palm. Crash! Then the water level of the entire bitter sea suddenly dropped, because an extremely huge creature stood up from the bitter sea. It was a towering humanoid giant that was over 1,000,000 zhang tall. A god at the level of 1,000 feet was less than 1% in front of the giant, just like half a finger. The giant of the bitter sea appeared. He opened his mouth, indifferently stuffed the god-level wild beast in the palm of his hand into his mouth, and chewed. A shrill scream came from his mouth, followed by the bone-numbing chewing sound, gradually weakening, and finally there was dead silence. The giant of the bitter sea stepped on the land of the demon world. Suddenly, the earth cracked, and the demon world shook. It walked to the place where Suyu fought with the 3 maids in 3 steps, and sniffed with its huge nose. Amidst the dust, a drop of divine blood covered by the dust floated up. The divine blood contained the breath of the demon royal family. That was the divine blood of the 9th princess. It was the divine blood that Suyu deliberately left behind. The giant of the bitter sea greedily sucked the divine blood into his mouth, and his indifferent face showed excitement. He raised his head and looked forward. After taking a few steps, he found another drop of divine blood. Excited, he continued to move forward. Every 100 million miles, there was a drop of divine blood. He continued to move forward along the divine blood. The direction he was moving in was the demon emperor's capital. Wherever he went, there was chaos and death. This message was passed to the demon emperor in just 10 days. The 9 princes and princesses, the holy magic hall, and Princess Yunxiao were all alarmed. Heaven is helping me. After half a year, the giant of the bitter sea has come ashore again. The 6th princess heard the news, and her pretty eyes were full of surprise. The book deity had a strange look on his face. Your Royal Highness is preparing to, of course, to launch a coup in advance. The 6th princess's eyes flashed coldly. This, I haven't discussed with the other princes and princesses, and changed my mind temporarily. If they can't pick you up, won't they put themselves in danger? The book deity's eyes flashed with anxiety, and he calmly advised. The 6th princess turned her head and stared at the book deity with a smile. It is necessary to change your mind temporarily for the coup to succeed. Otherwise, if someone tipped us off in advance, our coup would be extinguished before it was launched. Wouldn't that be a joke? The book deity looked calm and said lightly, Your Royal Highness suspects that I betrayed you. Well, I suspect. UMO. No. So you said that you are a person who can't be trusted at all. Anyone who believes in you is close to death. The 6th princess said lightly. The book deity said, Just his side of the story? So what? Since you are a hidden danger, then I will get rid of you first. The 6th princess shouted and immediately attacked. The book deity's face changed slightly, and he shouted, Come out! Swish! 5 strong deities appeared in all directions and surrounded the 6th princess. The 5 deities were all city lords of Jingxian realm, and they were also secretly persuaded by the 6th princess to join her and prepare to launch a coup with her. You betrayed me? The 6th princess's eyes narrowed. The 5 deities did not say a word, and their expressions were extremely calm. The book deity hid behind the 5 deities, and only then did he relax a little. He said lightly, "You betrayed the demon world. As the demon gods, of course, they have to put righteousness before family." The 6th princess snorted. "Bah, what righteousness before family? Were they bought by your promise of greater benefits?" The book deity smiled lightly and said, "You are indeed a princess who can be compared with the eldest prince, resourceful and resourceful. Yes, I'm under the order of Princess Yinxia. If you have any rebellious actions, you will be killed immediately. These 5 city lords have been influenced by me and decided to abandon the darkness for the light. If they take your head, they can get a reward from Princess Yinxia, which is far better than risking betrayal to the demon world with you." The 6th princess said with hatred, "You actually turned to Princess Yinxia? When did this happen?" Chapter 1246. The 6th princess stared at them coldly. "Do you think that the few of you are my opponents?" As the second strongest member of the royal family, the 6th princess was qualified to say this. "Oh, if you're in your heyday, the 5 of them together are not your opponents, but you're seriously injured." The book deity clearly remembered that the 6th princess came back with injuries all over her body. He secretly inquired and learned that she was injured when fighting with the 3 maids of Princess Yinxia. This was the reason why the 5 city lords finally decided to rebel. The 6th princess, who was so seriously injured, had no hope at all in the coup. Instead of that, it was better to return to Princess Yinxia and kill the 6th princess by the way. It could also make a great contribution. Kill her while she is seriously injured. The book deity ordered indifferently. She is seriously injured. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Boom! The 5 gods were full of killing intent, and they attacked together. When the 6th princess was in her heyday, they did not even have the courage to fight. But now, chi-chi, 2 muffled sounds came abruptly. The 5 gods who besieged were stunned for a moment, and then they were horrified. Even the book deity was taken aback. The 6th princess was not seriously injured. Her left and right hands were holding a group of God Source Origin, and the owners of the God Source Origin, the 2 city lords, were killed on the spot. The 6th princess's mouth evoked a cruel and playful arc, and she swallowed the 2 groups of God Source Origin in one gulp. She sneered. "Suyu's strategy is really good. Only the trick of self-injury can lead you to the tail of the old fox." "Suyu, you mean you pretended to be seriously injured, and it was Suyu's idea?" The book deity stared, and his face quickly became gloomy. The 6th princess sneered. "Yes, he left me a message. He guessed that a villain like you, who is so repetitive, will definitely not follow me to take the risk of a coup, and will definitely choose the most beneficial side. So, you must have taken advantage of my absence to seek refuge with Princess Yinxia. Second, he guessed that you were good at calculating people's hearts, and, while I was away, you must have taken the initiative to do something to my city. Now it seems that his speculation is correct. The 6th princess had previously obtained the jade pendant left by Suyu before he left. At first, she was still skeptical, but she also knew that it was a big deal, and she had to try. She pretended to be seriously injured, and at the same time, summoned the city lord who was attached to her to protect her. Until today, when he suddenly changed his mind and immediately launched a coup. After being forced into a corner, they finally gave themselves away. Suyu's prediction was not wrong at all. Thinking about it carefully, the 6th princess would be seriously injured by the sneak attack of the book deity and the 5 gods who were attached to her. She might even be killed on the spot. Even if they were lucky enough not to die, Princess Yinxia, who had already received the news, must have prepared a deadly trap in the Devil Emperor. If all the princes and princesses rushed there, it would be suicide. Fortunately, Suyu had woken up in time and had given him the jade pendant in advance, so that he could get rid of the hidden danger first. The book deity's expression changed drastically, and he fled immediately without thinking. The 6th princess sneered and ignored him. She first dealt with the 3 traitorous city lords in front of her. "Your Royal Highness, I was deceived for a while, and I dare not do it again. I am willing to follow your royal highness to overthrow Princess Yunxia. Please give me a chance to atone for my crime. Qi. As soon as his voice fell, he was destroyed by the sixth princess. No need. Those who betray me will be killed without mercy. The sixth princess's face was full of murderous intent, like a female Azura. A rain of blood flew, and the last two city lords also fell in a pool of blood. As for the book deity, the sixth princess did not chase, but waited quietly. Soon, the endless demonic clouds came. There were waves of divine light inside, and there were more than 40 strong demon gods. Among them, there were 7 who exuded the breath of the royal family. The leader was the eldest prince, and all the princes and princesses, including the 7th prince, were around him. Behind them were the city lords who were loyal to them and prepared to accompany them in the coup. The eldest prince held a book in his hand, floated down, and threw it to the 6th princess. The feather demon is right. This person has taken refuge with Princess Yunxia, and the one who stays with him must not be the real one. His real body must be hiding in an extremely safe place. The 6th princess weighed the book in her hand and murmured. He even expected this. It's really interesting. The 7th prince was surprised. Big brother, 6th sister, why didn't you tell us in advance about the coup? Didn't it start 10 days later? The coup is happening now, and my people are completely unprepared. The 2nd princess also stared at the two of them with dissatisfaction. You two acted on your own and did not ask for our opinion at all. Su Yu's message. The 6th princess also told the eldest prince, but only the eldest prince. This was also Su Yu's stare. Even if the other princes and princesses could be trusted, could their people be trusted? The fewer people who knew about the coup in advance, the safer it would be. Among the princes and princesses, the 6th princess could only trust the eldest prince, and the rest were difficult to trust. Therefore, when the giant of the bitter sea landed, the eldest prince informed the other princes and princesses without warning, summoned the city lords who were loyal to them, and quickly went to the territory of the 6th princess to gather. It was not until this moment that they realized that they were actually going to advance the coup. Before this, they simply thought that they were just coming to rescue the 6th princess. The eldest prince said solemnly, "It was my decision not to tell you. Is there a problem?" They dared to criticize the 6th princess, but they had no courage at all for the eldest prince. The 6th princess cast a grateful look, and her elder brother took the initiative to help her bear all the pressure. The speculation of the feather demon is all correct. Our coup has long been known by Princess Yunxia. The eldest prince said loudly, "Only the coup in advance can we have a chance." The giant of the bitter sea is the opportunity and signal that the feather demon has created for us. The giant of the bitter sea is waiting for us to advance the coup. The giant of the bitter sea went straight to the demon emperor's capital, which would certainly attract most of the firepower of the demon realm holy magic hall. Was there a more suitable time to launch a coup than this? No. Although the giant of the bitter sea was waiting ashore, it would certainly cause unimaginable damage to the demon realm, but it was better than them dying in the mouth of the giant of the bitter sea, right? Princess Yunxiao imprisoned the demon emperor, persecuted the descendants of the royal family, destroyed the order of the demon realm, and such a demon concubine should be punished by everyone. Today, as the descendants of the royal family, I carry out the will of the royal family and launch a sacred war against Princess Yunxia. The eldest prince waved his arms and shouted, "Kill the demon concubine! Save the emperor!" Waving his arms and shouting shocked the sky. The princes and princesses looked at each other and showed their determination. Kill the demon concubine! Save the emperor! The gods loyal to them also roared, "Kill the demon concubine! Save the demon emperor!" The shouts of the gods were earth-shattering. This day must be a day that will forever be recorded in the history of the demon realm. The 9 princes and princesses of the demon realm launched a coup. Swish, including the princes and princesses, a total of 40 gods went to the demon emperor's capital. The sky was full of divine light, and the endless demonic clouds were unprecedentedly spectacular. Wherever they passed, the mountains collapsed and the earth roared, and all the creatures knelt down. Under the joint efforts of more than 40 gods, they turned into a sharp, long arrow, shooting to the demon emperor's capital, shooting to the princess Yunxia, who brought chaos to the demon realm. The movement caused by the news of the giant of the bitter sea waiting ashore has not yet subsided, and the news of the princes and princesses leading the gods in a coup hit the demon emperor's capital like a tsunami. When the coup army arrived at the demon emperor's capital, the preparations made by Princess Yunxia were destroyed by the sudden coup army before they could even be fully operated. The 3 deities guarding the demon emperor were putting on a brave front, but in the mighty army of deities, they were extinguished like fireflies. The army was divided into 2 groups, one led by the 6th princess, killing to the ancient altar and guarding their retreat. The other group was led by the eldest prince, killing to the demon emperor's palace. Suddenly, the demon emperor was boiling. The princes and princesses rebelled collectively, which had never happened before. The news did not need to be transmitted, and the people in the capital could also feel the strange fluctuations of the gods. In a mansion, Su Yu, who had been sitting quietly for 10 days, suddenly opened his eyes, and there was a hint of nervousness on his face. The coup has finally begun. Everyone, listen to my orders and carry out the task immediately according to my instructions. Su Yu shouted. From the vicinity of the house, more than 70 early-stage quasi-gods jumped out like raindrops, shooting in all directions, and each carried out the established tasks. Su Yu was alone and stepped out of the house. At the door of the house, a person stood, a woman in a white gauze, with a graceful figure. Her slender waist was not enough to hold, and her figure was very slender, giving a somewhat morbid feeling. She wore a white gauze hat on her head, and only the picturesque face could be vaguely seen. "Who are you?" Su Yu's eyes were sharp. He was in the house, but he did not notice that there was her breath outside the house. What made Su Yu's eyes even sharper was that none of the early-stage quasi-gods guarding outside the house came to report to him. There was no such thing as a rebellion, and they were completely loyal to Su Yu. She could stand here without a sound, and she must have done something to those guards. "I am by Wan Qing, and my teacher is the purple-eyed demonic god." The woman's voice was soft and a little morbid, but her tone was very calm. "It's you?" Su Yu's eyes flashed. The disciple of the purple-eyed demonic god was in the mansion, but he did not know that it was a woman. "Follow me." Su Yu was too lazy to argue with her. The woman nodded lightly. "Are we going to the altar? The giant of the bitter sea is waiting for the shore, and the princes and princesses will take the opportunity to launch a coup. If they are smart, they will definitely occupy the exit of the demon world, which is the altar, as a retreat. If you want to leave the demon world, perhaps this is the best opportunity." She was reminding Su Yu that now was not the time to lose. Su Yu turned his head and looked at her lightly. "You seem to think you are very smart." Unlike the purple-eyed demonic god, his air seemed to like to show off her abilities. She had done something to the guards outside the door to show her uniqueness, and now she thought that she was cleverly reminding Su Yu. Compared with the low-key modesty of the purple-eyed demonic god, his air was completely different. Chapter 1247. Su Yu shook his head secretly. A woman who thought she was clever, seemingly weak, but in fact, she was arrogant. "That's because you haven't seen enough," Su Yu said lightly, stepped out, and disappeared in the courtyard. Bai Wanqing's pretty face under the white veil showed a few traces of dissatisfaction. Her red lips gently pursed, and she said indifferently, "Is this the source of chaos that Master asked me to follow? He doesn't even listen to the slightest bit of advice. Will this kind of person really bring me unexpected good fortune?" Gently shaking her head, Bai Wanqing sighed helplessly, took a step forward, and disappeared into thin air. In addition to the gods, only a small number of late-stage quasi-gods could teleport. She followed Su Yu's breath and came to the ancient altar. She secretly said in her heart, "You said you didn't listen to my advice, but in fact, you still came here. Men, they just want to save face." Su Yu teleported and sniffed the remaining bloody smell in the air, and his heart was slightly relieved. It seems that the retreat route is guarded first. Hee, I've been waiting for you for a while. Why did you come so late? The sixth princess playfully teleported to Suyu, her hands still stained with a trace of divine blood. Suyu said, "A little delay. The eldest prince and the others should have broken into the palace, right?" The sixth princess looked at Suyu, her eyes full of smiles. After the incident with the book god, she became more and more interested in Suyu, far more than the ability in his hands. Suyu's meticulous planning really impressed the sixth princess, who prided herself on her cleverness. "Well, with the strength of the eldest brother in our army, there should be no problem. After all, 70% of the demons in the palace have been sent to deal with the giant of the bitter sea." Speaking of this, the sixth princess couldn't help but admire. This time, thanks to you, you actually thought of attracting the giant of the bitter sea. Even the eldest brother is full of praise for this. Suyu smiled and looked at the divine blood on the ground, thinking about something else. Moreover, thanks to your arrangement in advance, we were able to attack the palace by surprise. Haha, you're the main contributor to this coup. Bai Wanqing, who was on the side, heard this and frowned slightly. Well, what does the sixth princess mean? The giant of the bitter sea is waiting for the coup of the princes and princesses. What does it have to do with Suyu? She looked at Suyu and the sixth princess puzzledly. The sixth princess also noticed her. Who is she? Well, with the divine path of the purple-eyed demonic god. Is she his heir? Why is he following you? Some promises, Suyu replied vaguely. How smart was the sixth princess? He rolled his eyes and said with a faint smile, "Is it because the purple-eyed demonic god is nearing the end of his lifespan and is preparing to entrust his successor to you?" Looking at Bai Wanqing, the sixth princess smiled and said, "You are lucky to follow such a person. There will be endless benefits for you in the future." Ugh, Bai Wanqing was a little confused. Forget about the master. Why did even the sixth princess say the same thing? Why did they say that she would receive endless benefits if she followed Suyu? From their interactions, it was clear that he was an obstinate, self-opinionated mediocrity who still cared about his reputation. Suyu didn't have time to care about what she was thinking. He dashed into the hall and started collecting the corpses and blood of the deities. The sixth princess did not care about these things, but for Suyu, they were of great use. Looking at Suyu's action of picking up the divine blood corpse, Bai Wanqing did not say a word. She shook her head and sighed softly. The sixth princess stared at her, and her eyes were full of wisdom. "Oh, it seems that you're not satisfied with following her." Bai Wanqing looked indifferent. "Your Royal Highness, you think too much." Oh, the sixth princess had read countless people, and she could see through Bai Wanqing's thoughts at a glance. She shook her head and laughed. What a woman who thinks she is smart. The purple-eyed demonic god has entrusted a troublesome person to the feather demon. Yes, Bai Wanqing was displeased. Not long ago, Suyu said that she thought she was smart. How long has it been? Her Royal Highness unceremoniously accused her of being smart. Inheriting the eyes that saw through everything in the world, Bai Wanqing often had a sense of superiority over others. But today, she was continuously looked down upon and thought she was smart, which really made her unhappy. Your Royal Highness, although you are a Royal Highness, it is not appropriate for you to insult people so inexplicably, isn't it? Bai Wanqing said lightly. Insult. The sixth princess smiled, and there was a bit of sarcasm in her smile. Sure enough, the reason for being smart is because of ignorance. I'm too lazy to explain it to you. At this time, Suyu came out. The divine blood and corpses of the three deities had all been collected by Suyu, leaving nothing behind. Oh, what do you want the divine blood for? The sixth princess came over curiously. Suyu's eyes flickered slightly. It has some uses. This place has been pacified. Leave 2 people to guard it. Let's go to the palace. There's no need to go. The eldest brother and the others have taken action, and there are not many guards in the palace. There is no suspense in the outcome. What's more, as long as we reach the forbidden area of the palace and arrive at the place where the emperor cultivates, we can wake him up. No matter how many trump cards Princess Yunxia has, she can't do anything to them. Suyu pondered with his arms crossed and shook his head. You are too optimistic. Listen to my advice and support them immediately. I will go with you. The sixth princess rolled her eyes and said decisively, Okay. After all, you're the mastermind behind the coup, and by listening to your advice, we can minimize the loss. It is right to listen to you. Let's go. She pulled Suyu and teleported with him. Bai Wanqing was shocked, and her indifferent expression was full of shock. She almost thought she had heard it wrong. The sixth princess said that the mastermind behind the coup was Suyu. How could this be possible? Would the descendants of the royal family listen to an outsider to launch a coup? But the sixth princess was even less likely to lie. There was a roar in her mind, and she remembered the conversation in front of the house. She thought she had seen through everything in the world, saw the giant of the bitter sea waiting for the shore, saw the royal coup, saw the opportunity to leave the demon world, and then proudly reminded Suyu. It turned out that all of this was led by Suyu. It was like a martial artist who had achieved a small success in cultivation, showing the essence of a certain cultivation method to a passerby who did not know that the cultivation method was created by this passerby. It was no wonder that Suyu would say that she was being clever, and when she was not convinced, he said that she did not see enough. Her eyes only saw the development of things, but she could not see the behind-the-scenes manipulator who guided all the development. Recalling her dispute with the sixth princess, she got the evaluation of being clever and ignorant, and Bai Wanqing's pretty face was hot. Judging from the performance just now, she was really ignorant. However, she was not convinced because of this. Without seeing it with her own eyes, it was hard for her to believe it. If you want me, Bai Wanqing, to follow you willingly, then show me the strength to convince me. Otherwise, I would rather perish on my own than be buried in the hands of a mediocre person like you. Bai Wanqing took a step forward and teleported to catch up. When Suyu and others arrived at the palace was already full of blood. There were corpses of quasi-gods everywhere, mixed with the corpses of the gods. The once magnificent palace also fell apart in the Battle of the Gods, and most of it turned into ruins. Only the forbidden area in the center of the palace was still intact. The coup army also attacked this place, forcing the living forces in the palace to this place. After a shocking battle, the 20 gods in the palace were killed until only 5 people were left, and all of them were injured. On the other hand, on the side of the coup, the princes and princesses were safe and sound, and only 3 or 4 city lords had fallen. This could be described as a complete victory, far easier than imagined. This was thanks to the giant of the bitter sea, who attracted most of the forces away. Staring at the forbidden area, the defeated soldiers surrounding a palace, and the middle-aged woman in fine clothes who was tightly protected by the crowd, the princes and princesses all had extremely murderous eyes. The eldest prince held a demonic sword in his hand, pointed it at the middle-aged woman in fine clothes, and said indifferently, Princess Yunxia, you have no way to retreat. Surrender. Don't make any more unnecessary resistance. Suyu looked at the woman in fine clothes from a distance, and his pupils shrank slightly. Was that Princess Yunxia? It was a middle-aged woman wearing a fiery red phoenix robe with a golden hairpin on her head. A pair of phoenix eyes, calm as a mountain, exudes majesty no less than that of the demon emperor. At this moment, sitting quietly in front of the palace, in the face of the powerful coup army, there was no change in her expression. Such a bearing, even as the enemy side of the coup, could not help but be afraid. In particular, the city lords did not dare to look at those calm and majestic eyes. Traitors, disobedient and unfilial, guilty. Princess Yunxia said softly, extremely majestic. Her phoenix eyes swept across, and the city lords were all guilty. The eldest prince said lightly, Devil concubine, your fate has come to an end. If you are stubborn, we can only use brute force to destroy the prohibition. Although it will alarm Father who is in isolation, I believe Father will not blame us for eradicating you, the devil concubine, for the royal family. Princess Yunxia looked calm and had no intention of surrendering. Attack. If Father is alarmed, I will bear the blame," the eldest prince said. Hearing this, the princes and princesses suddenly made their moves and attacked the restrictive barrier together. Capture and kill Princess Yunxia. Eradicate the scourge of the demon race. It all depended on this one move. However, in the process, the seventh prince suddenly flashed, and while following the eldest prince, he threw out a ferocious blood-red centipede from his sleeve. The eldest prince was not aware of it, and the blood-red centipede was attached to his body. The blood-red centipede flashed and immediately penetrated the body of the eldest prince. The eldest prince snorted, and his body quickly decayed. The blood of the giant of the bitter sea in the body of the blood-red centipede. There was a trace of the blood of the giant of the bitter sea. The blood of the giant of the bitter sea had an extremely powerful restraining effect on the royal family of the demon race. It was because of this that the ninth princess was beaten back to her original body. Seal of the seven extremes. The eldest prince quickly pointed to his eyebrows, and a powerful divine power gushed out of his body, flushing out most of the blood of the giant of the bitter sea that was integrated into his body. But there was still a small amount left in his body, and the eldest prince had to use most of his divine power to suppress the blood of the giant of the bitter sea. I didn't expect that the eldest brother had secretly succeeded in practicing the seal of the seven extremes that no one in my royal family has ever successfully practiced. A surprised voice came from behind. He suddenly turned back, stared at the seventh prince who suddenly attacked him, and said in a deep voice, "Did you turn to Princess Yunxia?" The seventh prince's face was pale, and his temperament was like a scholar. He floated back and said lightly, "Yes, because you are all dead, I can become the only heir of the royal family." Behind the seventh prince, a large number of lurking late-stage quasi-gods appeared one after another. Each of them held a blood-red centipede, and all of them contained the blood of the giant of the bitter sea. They were surrounded. In the prohibition, Princess Yunxia got up calmly and looked at them with pity. "I have been waiting for you for a long time. If you are well-behaved, I need to clean you up one by one. Unfortunately, you are overestimating yourself and trying to launch a coup. The blood of the giant of the bitter sea has been waiting for you for a long time." The princes and princesses present all had a chill on their backs. The blood of the giant of the bitter sea was the nemesis of the royal family of the demon race. Even if it was slightly touched, it would be beaten back to its original form. They were originally surrounding Princess Yunxia, but they were surrounded by the people led by the betrayed seventh prince. In addition, the eldest prince was suffering from the blood of the giant of the bitter sea, and they had lost their leader. They who were in a good situation just now fell into a passive position in the blink of an eye. However, Su Yu, who was watching the show in the distance, showed an unsurprised look. Chapter 1248. Get into formation, the first prince whispered. The princes and princesses took out their respective golden flames forbidden with weapons and formed a circle. The city masters loyal to them also took out their defensive magic weapons to protect the princes and princesses inside. Feudal struggle, the seventh prince said lightly, and was about to order the release of the blood-colored centipede. Suddenly, one of the prospective gods, holding the blood-colored centipede, suddenly turned his head and shot the blood-colored centipede at the seventh prince. The seventh prince was shocked, and his reaction was extremely quick to teleport away. But at the moment of evasion, a wave of divine light suddenly appeared, and it was the three strong city masters who had always been hidden and had never shown up. They had been secretly following the coup army and did not appear to fight. But at such a critical moment, the three gods descended with boundless divine light and decisively interrupted the seventh prince's teleportation. With a scream, the seventh prince could not avoid it and shouted, "How dare you, ah!" He poured out his divine power and killed the rebellious early-stage prospective god on the spot, but the blood-colored centipede still hit him and quickly submerged into his body. The blood of the giant of the bitter sea was completely integrated into the seventh prince's body. But hearing a heart-wrenching pain, the seventh prince's 7 orifices spurted blood, and his body was constantly rotting. In the blink of an eye, from a handsome prince, he turned into a man whose flesh and blood were rotting and dying. The first prince stared at him coldly. I really don't know if you're really stupid or pretending to be stupid. Will Princess Yunxia give up the throne to you? It is not like my seventh brother to believe this kind of lie. Among the many princes, only the seventh prince was second only to the first prince. In terms of intelligence and wisdom, he did not lose much to him. Such an obvious trick to drive a wedge, he actually believed it. The seventh prince's skin and flesh rolled and gradually rotted, but he rushed to Princess Yunxia on the restriction, his eyes full of strange affection, and eagerly said, "Yunxia, save me." Hearing the seventh prince's words, everyone present changed their expressions. In theory, Princess Yunxia was their father's concubine, and in theory, she was their elder. Calling her name directly, everyone seemed to understand something. The sixth princess looked at Suyu deeply. "I'm curious. How did you know that the seventh prince has such an indecent love for the princess?" Suyu said, "That day, you and the seventh prince appeared together in the world of divine remains. The seventh prince took away the holy deity's inherited emperor-based saint artifact, the Xianlong divine hairpin. At that time, he said to himself that he wanted to give it to Princess Yunxia. A man giving a woman a hairpin, isn't that enough to express his feelings?" The sixth princess suddenly understood. No wonder you could predict the seventh prince's betrayal in advance, so that the first royal brother had the opportunity to place his own people in the seventh prince's confidence in advance. Unfortunately, the first prince was also poisoned by the blood of the giant of the bitter sea. At this moment, Bai Wanqing, who had just rushed over, heard this scene and was shocked. The seventh prince had rebelled. Even her eyes hadn't noticed it. So how could Suyu have predicted it in advance? With bewilderment, Bai Wanqing remained silent and continued to observe coldly. In the end, the seventh prince failed to get Princess Yunxia's help. On the one hand, the blood of the giant of the bitter sea was incurable, and on the other hand, opening the prohibition was equivalent to digging his own grave. Until the seventh prince was decayed into a pool of muddy water, Princess Yunxia did not look at him. Although this man would rather betray his brothers and sisters for her, although he knew that Princess Yunxia would eventually get rid of him, he was still willing, but she did not have the slightest mercy. The seventh prince fell, and his group of early-stage prospective deities who held the blood of the giant of the bitter sea lost their leader and quickly fell into chaos. The three city masters, like thunder, cut them all out and seized the blood-colored centipede in their hands. Suyu's eyes flickered slightly, and he remembered the three city masters. "Demon concubine, you will die a horrible death." The second princess witnessed the fall of the seventh prince, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Princess Yunxia was indifferent. "He was willing, and I never forced him. What's more, he died in your hands. Shouldn't you be the one to die a horrible death? I will kill you." The second princess screamed and angrily attacked the prohibition. The rest of the princes and princesses also felt the fall of the seventh prince, and their hearts were filled with grief and indignation. Under the joint siege of many gods, the prohibition was crumbling. The situation was once again in their favor. Suyu frowned. Whether they could succeed or not depended on this. "Hey, you look uneasy." Bai Wanqing pretended to be surprised, and her purple pupils had already detected some of Princess Yunxia's secrets. Princess Yunxia had secretly ambushed a group of the Holy Magic Hall's top strongmen. They would soon come over and catch all these princes and princesses in one fell swoop. This secret, only her purple pupils peeped into it, and the corners of her mouth evoked a bit of smugness. A sense of superiority over ordinary people was undoubtedly revealed. Suyu ignored her, stared at the sixth princess, and said, "If they can't break the prohibition in a cup of tea, immediately persuade them to give up. According to the time, the people of the Holy Magic Hall should be coming soon." The sixth princess said, "Well, my brother and the others will strictly follow your plan." "What?" Bai Wanqing, who was complacent, was shocked. He had predicted that the Holy Magic Hall would join in before the coup began. He had developed an extremely rigorous plan for this. She did not believe that a person could see so far. On the battlefield, although there were many gods besieging, the prohibition was extremely tough and could not be broken in a short time. The eldest prince and the others were secretly anxious. According to Su Yu's speculation, the Holy Magic Hall would definitely attack. The more time was delayed, the more disadvantageous it was for them. Only by breaking the prohibition and rescuing the emperor could the Holy Magic Hall's strong men stop in the name of the emperor. Therefore, time was everything. If the prohibition was broken before the Holy Magic Hall arrived, they would win. Otherwise, they would be defeated. However, a cup of tea's time passed quickly, and although the prohibition was crumbling, there was still no sign of breaking. Retreat. The eldest prince made a prompt decision. Otherwise, if they were surrounded by the Holy Magic Hall, they would not be able to escape. The princes and princesses were extremely unwilling, but the coup eventually ended in failure. To avoid total annihilation, they could only choose to leave. Crack. However, just as they were preparing to retreat, the prohibition that had not been broken for a long time made a cracking sound, and a crack appeared. This was a sign that the prohibition was about to be broken. Swish, they, who were preparing to retreat, turned their heads to look, and their faces were ecstatic. However, at this moment, Su Yu in the distance stared deeply and shouted, "That is a trap! Don't be fooled! Go immediately! The Holy Magic Hall has arrived." Su Yu's warning caused several princes and princesses to recover from surprise. Was this a trap of Princess Yinxia? They knew that Su Yu was right, but staring at the crack that was getting bigger and bigger, they could not contain their inner emotions. If they could hold on for a moment, break the prohibition, wake up the emperor from his retreat, and be surrounded by the Holy Magic Hall, so what? The princes and princesses struggled for a while, and finally looked at the eldest prince. "Eldest brother, what should we do?" There was also a struggle in the eldest prince's eyes. If they gave up now, they would miss the only opportunity to kill Princess Yinxia. From then on, they would be exiled in the Xing River, never to return to the demon world. But the last trace of reason controlled him. "Go! Don't be obsessed with fighting." The eldest prince gritted his teeth and finally led his 3 city gods to meet with Su Yu. However, the princes and princesses who followed him were only the second princess and the 3 city gods loyal to the second princess. Chapter 1249. Attack with all your might. Victory is in sight. The third prince shouted, and the remaining princes and princesses, as well as a group of city masters, chose to stake everything on one throw. Crack, crack. As the cracks widened, their breathing became rapid. If they could save their father, they would win. The faces of the first prince and the second princess changed. Come back. However, they had chosen to stake everything on one throw. Seeing that the seal was about to be broken, how could they listen to their advice? No need to persuade them anymore. They have made their choice. The sixth princess shook her head. The first prince and the second princess sighed deeply and rushed to the altar with the sixth princess and Su Yu. As soon as they left, outside the demon emperor's capital, a demonic cloud filled with a violent atmosphere rose, forming an encirclement and slowly closing in on the capital. In the demonic cloud, nearly 100 terrible divine light waves shone in all directions. At the head of the 100 demonic gods stood a huge demonic god with a height of 2,000 feet, more than twice as tall as the ordinary demonic gods. His whole body was not blood red, but a deep dark red. A series of strange runes circled on his body surface, adding to the sense of ferocity. He was the commander of the Holy Magic Hall, the demonic god of 6 paths, the only disciple of the current demon emperor. He held a blood-stained sword of the golden flames forbidden wood in his hand. The giant of the bitter sea was repelled. Feeling the arrival of the Holy Magic Hall, the third prince's face changed dramatically. The Holy Magic Hall really came. However, it was too late to rush to the altar now. Break through the seal and invite my father out. The third prince roared. The entire army of the Holy Magic Hall was dispatched, stimulating their nerves and prompting them to besiege the seal in a frenzy. Crack, crack. Finally, at the most critical moment, the seal was broken. The Ku army swarmed in. Princess Yunxia and a group of gods were instantly drowned by the tide. Except for Princess Yunxia, all were executed on the spot. The gods of the Holy Magic Hall also arrived at this moment, besieging the Ku army. More than 30 gods, including the third prince, immediately held Princess Yunxia hostage and shouted, "Stop! Otherwise, kill Princess Yunxia." The commander had a pair of dark red blood eyes, staring at them indifferently, and coldly ordered, "It's dinner time." Roar! The cruel and greedy roars of a group of tyrannical fiend gods came from the demonic clouds, as if they were a group of hungry beasts that hadn't eaten for a long time. At the same time, the subdued Princess Yunxia suddenly flashed and turned into a book. That was not Princess Yunxia herself. What? Everyone was shocked. They were not besieging Princess Yunxia. So where was she? However, now was not the time to care about her. The third prince and the other princes and princesses bowed toward the secret chamber. "Father, please come out of seclusion." His voice was loud and clear, and it shook the heavens. The secret chamber, which had been sealed for hundreds of years, creaked open. The princes and princesses were delighted. The final victor was still them. Imperial Father had come out of seclusion. As long as his father woke up, the outcome would be set. The third prince was secretly excited. Now, the eldest prince had left the devil world. He was the strongest among the remaining princes and princesses. As long as the eldest prince did not return, he would undoubtedly be the next devil emperor. The giant door opened, but the secret room was deathly still. There were no signs of life. The princes and princesses could not help but look up. The scene in the secret room caused their pupils to shrink. There was nothing in the secret room except for the thick dust that had accumulated for hundreds of years. The Devil Emperor was not in the secret room. Father has been in seclusion for hundreds of years. Where is he? Where is he? The princes and princesses could not believe the scene in front of them. They had always believed that their father was deceived because he was in seclusion. He did not know the situation of the princes and princesses. However, the spacious secret chamber was like a hammer that smashed into their bodies. They had staked all their hopes on the demon emperor, who was in closed-door cultivation. In the end, the secret room was empty. Roar! Countless roars that shook the heavens resounded from the demonic clouds. One by one, the hungry blood-red demon gods pounced down like locusts. In an instant, God's blood splattered, and the sky cried blood. One by one, the gods fell. Including the princes and princesses, none of the 30 gods escaped. They all became food for the blood-red demon gods and were eaten alive. Altar. When they arrived, it was the time when the Holy Magic Hall appeared in the Devil Emperor capital. Staring at the entire Holy Magic Hall, everyone's heart trembled. "They can't be saved," Suyu said lightly. The second princess looked expectant. "Not necessarily. If they can open the secret room. The Devil Emperor is not in seclusion. Opening the secret room is useless." Suyu shook his head. "The secret room should be empty." What? Not only the second princess, but the eldest prince and the sixth princess were also shocked. Father is in seclusion in the secret room. This is well known in the demonic dimension. It is because of this that concubine Yunxia, the demon concubine, caused chaos in the demonic dimension. They could not believe this fact, because if Father was not in seclusion, then where was he? Why did he watch the descendants of the royal family fall into the miserable situation of being sacrificed to the giant of the bitter sea and do nothing? No, when I crossed the divine tribulation, I understood that the Devil Emperor has never been in seclusion. "He is right in front of you," Suyu said lightly. Hearing this, the 3 princes and princesses were shocked on the spot. "Where is Father? Why have we met?" The 3 of them stared at Suyu and fell into boundless shock. Bai Wanqing's purple crystal eyes flickered constantly. Following Suyu's words, she kept peeping into the secrets between heaven and earth. As a result, Bai Wanqing's face turned pale. The Devil Emperor was indeed not in the secret room. However, even if her forehead was full of sweat, she could not detect the true whereabouts of the Devil Emperor. "Didn't I bring the Devil Emperor?" Suyu said the answer, and looked in the direction of the bitter sea. Vaguely, one could see a colossal creature that towered between the heavens and the earth. The giant of the bitter sea. The second princess took a breath. You mean, the giant of the bitter sea is our father? Suyu nodded. There is no mistake. The giant of the bitter sea is the father you have been searching for. Hiss! Bai Wanqing suddenly covered her purple eyes, and bursts of pain came from her eyes. Her face was shocked and painful. She was shocked that she followed Su Yu's words and did speculate the truth, an unbelievable truth. The real body of the giant of the bitter sea was actually the Devil Emperor who had been missing for hundreds of years. She was even more shocked that she could not detect a trace of him, and Su Yu speculated it based on his wisdom. At this moment, Bai Wanqing suddenly felt cold all over, and inexplicable fear kept surging from her heart. Standing next to Su Yu, she finally felt his horror. He was an existence above her divine path, with his wisdom. Clap! Clap! At that instant, a crisp clap could be heard coming from the hall, accompanied by a faint scent of blood. Frightening wisdom, you even discovered this. The air of Tianjizi, you really surprised me. The sound of light footsteps gradually approached, and a woman in gorgeous clothes with a majestic bearing appeared. Behind her was the book deity, the blood-red demonic god, and the demon cloud city master. Their feet were stained with the blood of the demonic god. The altar was recaptured by them, and the city master who guarded the altar was eliminated by them. Chapter 1250. So you looked at Princess Yunxia lightly. I didn't expect that the woman Tianjizi missed was such a person. Shaking his head, Su Yu, despite his reluctance, still brought Tianjizi's words. Tianjizi asked me to tell you that he has never forgotten you, Yunxia Fairy. Hearing this, Princess Yunxia's face flashed a little, but it was quickly replaced by indifference. Su Yu silently felt sorry for Tianjizi. He wanted to bring it, and Su Yu brought it. He thought it would be love between a man and a woman, but what he got was indifference. No matter what, the words had been delivered. Su Yu's palm loosened, and something in the Milky Way star sand seemed to vanish. That was the promise fulfilled. The last obstacle disappeared, and the Milky Way star sand completely belonged to Su Yu. Father is the giant of the bitter sea? How could this be? At this time, the eldest prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess were all shocked and speechless. At the beginning of the demon world, this giant of the bitter sea existed. Its life was ancient, and it could be said to be as old as heaven and earth. The current demon emperor was a creature born only a few hundred years ago. No matter how you looked at it, it was impossible to be the giant of the bitter sea from millions of years ago. Princess Yunxia looked at them with pity. The demon emperor's ambition is great and can't be understood by you, a group of mayflies. You always think that I usurped the throne, brought chaos to the demon world. It did harm to you. In fact, I was following the wishes of your father. Oh, according to the wishes of the giant of the bitter sea, I sacrificed you one by one for your father to enjoy. Impossible! The second princess screamed, unable to believe this absurd reason. Princess Yunxia stared at her faintly. That's why I said that a mayfly like you wouldn't understand his lofty aspirations. After that, Princess Yunxia slowly closed her eyes and stood quietly on the altar. Several gods around her stepped forward and completely blocked the entrance to the altar hall. The book deity stood in the altar hall, looking down at Su Yu, and said indifferently, "It's time to end, Su Yu." The grievances between them had extended from the Great Eastern Alliance to the demon world, and they had fought against each other countless times. This time, it finally came to an end. Su Yu stared at the book deity. "You're really haunting me." The eyes of the sixth princess showed a hint of killing intent. "Humph, you have indeed sought refuge with the devil concubine. A wise man submits to circumstances. Don't you understand this principle, your highness?" The book deity said lightly. At this moment, there were waves of divine light. The Ku army, which had fallen into a desperate situation, started fighting with the Holy Magic Hall. Once the Holy Magic Hall intervened, they would no longer have any hope. The first prince stared at Su Yu, his eyes filled with suspicion. Suyu knew that the demon emperor was the giant of the bitter sea. Why didn't he tell him earlier? He even lured it here. Take back the altar. This is the only way for us to leave the demon world. The first prince looked around at them. They had 9 gods, the first prince, the second princess, the sixth princess, and 6 city masters who were still loyal to them. The other side had Princess Yunxia, the book deity, the general of the Holy Magic Hall, and the Demon Cloud City Master. If they fought hard, there was still hope for them to snatch back the altar. However, Suyu shook his head and said, "Don't waste your energy. Since they took back the altar, they won't let us take it from them again. They must have left something behind in the altar. Fighting with them here is exactly what they want." Princess Yunxia's majestic face occasionally revealed a hint of murderous intent. The fleeting expression could not be hidden from the first prince and the others. Suyu was right. The altar had been tampered with. Retreat immediately. They are delaying us, waiting for the Holy Magic Hall to intervene. Suyu touched his wrist, a string of Buddha beads. One of them flashed with purple light, and the purple-eyed demonic god suddenly appeared. Staring at the situation in front of him, the purple-eyed demonic god murmured, "Has it finally come to this?" After saying that, he grabbed Suyu and by wanqing with each hand and teleported. The direction was the bitter sea. The first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess hesitated for a moment. They stared unwillingly at the princes and princesses whose resistance was getting weaker and weaker. With a low growl, they teleported away with the purple-eyed demonic god. Princess Yunxia's eyes were murderous, and her face was cold. "Princess, what should we do?" The general of the Holy Magic Hall stared at Suyu's back and smiled cruelly. Last time he was stopped by Kalen, and Suyu escaped. Now Wait. Princess Yunxia was calm and composed. "The altar is the only exit of the demon world. If we guard here, they're like turtles in a jar. When the Holy Magic Hall intervenes, we will kill them." The book deity smiled approvingly. "Princess is right. They can't escape even if they have wings." The sixth princess and the others quickly caught up with Suyu. "You demon, speak clearly. Father is the giant of the bitter sea. What is going on?" The sixth princess's pretty eyes were full of cold light, and her murderous intent lingered. The first prince and the second princess also looked unfriendly. How could Suyu hide such an important thing? Literally, Suyu had the protection of the purple-eyed demonic god, so he was not afraid of the princes and princesses attacking him. The demon emperor is the giant of the bitter sea. "I mean, how did you know, and why didn't you tell us?" Suyu said lightly, "When I crossed the divine tribulation, 3 people appeared at the same time, the previous demon emperor, the current demon emperor, and the god of death. But according to my investigation, only the previous demon emperor will appear when the demon realm crosses the divine tribulation. Can't you think of something when 3 of them appear at the same time?" Suyu's eyes narrowed. The sixth princess's pretty eyes turned. "You mean they're the same person? To be precise, they are 3 people of the same person. This is the only way to explain it. The previous demon emperor should have appeared, but instead, 3 people appeared. If I'm not mistaken, the 3 of them should be 3 people of the same person." The second princess scolded, "Ridiculous. The demon emperors of the demon race are all unique. How can there be 2 demon emperors and the same demon emperor? Not to mention, there is a non-demon god of death." Suyu shrugged, not bothering to explain. The second princess was about to scold him. The first prince stared for a long time and whispered, "He may be right. The 2 demon emperors may indeed be the same person. In the secret books of the royal family, there is a secret curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons." The second princess and the sixth princess were stunned. "Why don't we know about it?" "That is a forbidden book that only the heir of the demon emperor can read," the first prince said slowly. "The heir, he is." This forbidden book records an extreme, forbidden technique passed down from the first demon emperor. After cultivation, thousands of clones with their own wills are separated, and they enter the cycle of reincarnation and become new creatures. The divided creatures cultivate separately, and when they reach a certain level of strength, they will be swallowed by the original to achieve explosive growth in cultivation. If the demon's guess is correct, the current demon emperor is indeed likely to be the reincarnation of the previous demon emperor. They may be the same person. The second princess and the sixth princess were shocked speechless. The first demon emperor left behind such a terrible forbidden technique. Countless clones, and the clones reincarnated, grew, and then swallowed each other. Wait, even if our father is the reincarnation clone of the previous demon emperor, he can't be the giant of the bitter sea. The previous demon emperor was born 10,000 years ago, and there is still a long time before the giant of the bitter sea appeared. The sixth princess first thought. The first prince shook his head slightly. This is also what I can't figure out. He looked at Suyu, waiting for his answer. Suyu smiled faintly. You can accept that the current demon emperor is the reincarnation clone of the previous demon emperor, but why don't you think again? Whose reincarnation clone was the previous demon emperor? Whose reincarnation clone was the one before that? So on and so forth. It can be traced back to the first demon emperor. And wasn't the curse of reincarnation created by the first demon emperor? What? The three of them were once again shocked by Suyu's bold speculation. Even the first prince was in disbelief. Are you saying that the demon emperors of the demonic dimension since ancient times were actually the reincarnation of the first demon emperor? Suyu nodded. Yes, it was the first demon emperor. When I first came to the demonic dimension, I was curious. The demonic dimension was created by the first demon emperor. Why was there a supreme being who could threaten all the creatures in the demonic dimension? In any cavern world, there is only one supreme being, and that is the first deity who created the cavern world. Later, when I was undergoing the ordeal, the two demon emperors appeared at the same time, which enlightened me. The giant of the bitter sea is the first demon emperor. The curse of reincarnation is the main body devouring generations of clones. If all the previous demon emperors were clones, then where's the main body? He must have lived for thousands of years. In the demonic dimension, there is only one creature who has lived for millions of years, the giant of the bitter sea. Upon hearing this, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess were all shocked and speechless for a long time. They found it hard to believe Suyu's speculation, but they had to admit that it was the most reasonable and most likely explanation. The birth of the giant of the bitter sea was explained because it was the first demon emperor himself. The giant of the bitter sea's desire to devour the royal family could also be explained because all the descendants of the royal family were his reincarnation clones. They were all thunderstruck as they followed Suyu's teleportation. They didn't even think about Suyu's purpose in going to the bitter sea. That was a land of death, and even deities couldn't cross it. Bai Wanqing, who thought highly of herself, was also thunderstruck. Suyu's speculation ran through the 10 million years of history of the demonic dimension, and the vast span of time and space he speculated was beyond the reach of the divine path she inherited. The way she stared at Suyu had completely changed. This was indeed a frightening existence. It was as if there was nothing in the world that he couldn't see through and see through. The purple-eyed demonic god looked at the dumbfounded expressions of the three princes and princesses and didn't find it funny at all. Because when Suyu told him the same speculation, he had the same expression. Until today, when Princess Yunxia personally admitted that the current demon emperor was the giant of the bitter sea, it confirmed Suyu's shocking speculation. A shocking conspiracy that had been hidden between the heavens and the earth for 10 million years had surfaced. A shadow behind the scenes that had been entrenched in the demonic dimension for 10 million years had appeared. The first demon emperor, the giant of the bitter sea. For 10 million years, he had been practicing the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons, constantly expanding himself. Looking at Bai Wanqing, who was thunderstruck, the purple-eyed demonic god was completely relieved. Only Suyu, an unparalleled sage who could see through time and space, could control his disciple. After a long, long time, The three princes and princesses finally recovered from the shocking conspiracy that had lasted for 10 million years. The faces of the three became very ugly. Chapter 12:51. So you looked at them with some pity. In theory, they were destined to be swallowed by the giant of the bitter sea when they were born. Their fate was sad. Sighing softly, Suyu said, I'm not entirely sure. Besides, if I told you, would you still choose to launch a coup? The sixth princess did not refute in the end. Indeed, if they knew this terrible truth, would they have the courage to launch a coup? Because they had to face not only Princess Yunxia, but also the giant of the bitter sea. The eldest prince looked at the gradually approaching bitter sea and said, You led the giant of the bitter sea out of the bitter sea. Is there another purpose? Suyu nodded. Well, the bitter sea is the ultimate retreat I prepared. The altar is just a backup option. It would be best if we could leave, but it doesn't matter if we can't. We still have the bitter sea. The second princess looked surprised. The bitter sea is our retreat? Are you confused? You can't fly for too long over the bitter sea. Even if the gods teleport, they can't teleport far. They must come back immediately. Otherwise, it is normal for the gods to fall in it. The bitter sea was clearly a dangerous place. Being brought here by Suyu, the second princess was going crazy. The eldest prince and the sixth princess were silent. Judging from Suyu's character, he always planned ahead. There must be a purpose for bringing them to the bitter sea. However, like the second princess, they couldn't understand where there was a way out of the bitter sea. The sixth princess blinked. No creature has crossed the bitter sea for 10 million years. Why are you so sure that there's a way out for us? Suyu laughed softly. Any living creature? I don't think so. Have you forgotten someone? Who? The three princes were stunned. Apart from the giant of the bitter sea, there were other creatures that could cross the bitter sea. The god of death, Suyu said. He appeared in my tribulation, which is enough to show that he is also a demon emperor of a generation. He should be in the demon world, but he appeared in the galaxy. Don't you think it's strange? The three princes and princesses were stunned. According to the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons, the clones of the past were swallowed by the giant of the bitter sea, except for the god of death, who lived in the galaxy. Suyu nodded. In the records of the demon dimension, there was a demon emperor who was dragged into the bitter sea by the giant of the bitter sea. Since then, he has disappeared without a trace. No one knows whether he is dead or alive. Upon hearing this, the three princes and princesses blurted out, the ninth demon emperor, the undead demon emperor. How could they not know the only demon emperor who was dragged away by the giant of the bitter sea? Yes, it's him. I suspect that he is the god of death who escaped from the demon realm. In the history of the devil world, the life and death of the past devil emperors are recorded in detail. They were born in the devil world and died in the devil world. In the end, they will definitely return to the first devil emperor. However, the undying demon emperor was nowhere to be found. Therefore, the undying demon emperor should be the god of death in the galaxy. The appearance of the god of death had always been a mystery in the galaxy. No one knew where the god of death had come from, and no one knew how powerful he was. It was as if he had appeared overnight, joined the land of divine remains, and founded the Netherworld School. The Starry Sky only knew so much about him. His current identity might be able to explain everything. A demon emperor who escaped from the demon realm. The six princesses' crystal eyes lit up. She stared at the bitter sea and said, You mean there is a second way out of the demon realm in the bitter sea? Suyu's eyes sparkled. Yes. He was dragged into the bitter sea and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in the galaxy. Isn't that enough to explain the problem? The bitter sea must have a way to the outside world. It was because of this that the undead demon emperor was able to escape from the demon realm and avoid the fate of being devoured by the first devil emperor. When the crowd heard this, they only felt that it was unbelievable. Among the clues, Suyu found a way to the outside of the demon realm that no one had discovered for thousands of years. Swish! The group of people communicated and soon teleported to the shore of the bitter sea. Over there, A group of early-stage prospective deities were using their divine power without caring about the consumption, refining a 10-feet-tall tree that was burning with golden flames. When they first saw this scene, except for the purple-eyed demonic god who knew everything about the plan, everyone else, including the princes and princesses, was stunned. The sixth princess thought she was clever, but staring at the huge tree that was 10 feet thick, she couldn't believe it for a moment. That familiar scent, that familiar flame, if it wasn't the golden flames forbidden wood, then what was it? However, the golden flames forbidden wood could not survive in the demon realm. It had long been extinct. What was going on with this lush, fresh giant tree that had obviously been dug out not long ago? Suddenly, the sixth princess remembered that Suyu had asked her for the dying golden flames forbidden wood. Could it be cultivated by that seed? But the sixth princess quickly erased this absurd idea. In just half a year, a dying seed was cultivated into a mature golden flames forbidden wood. Even if the first devil emperor was here, he would never be able to do it. The eldest prince's pupils shrank fiercely. Golden flames forbidden wood. The second princess ran over in surprise and circled around the golden flames forbidden wood. Her face was full of astonishment. Oh my God, how is this possible? There is actually a complete golden flames forbidden wood growing in the demon realm. Looking at the age, it is at least 500 years old. Where did you find it? The second princess was shocked. Bao Wanqing was also shocked. She knew that there could not be a second one in the demon realm. The only possibility was that the golden flames forbidden wood came from Suyu. How would he hide it? To this day, Bai Wanqing recalled the arrogance she had when she first saw Suyu. She felt hot all over and ashamed. In front of such a person, what was her divine path worth? No wonder Master was in awe of Suyu. At this moment, Bai Wanqing finally let go of some of her pride and lowered her head. At this moment, a group of early-stage prospective deities were working hard to refine it, cutting off the branches on it, trying to refine it into a small boat. Everyone, let's help refine it together, Suyu said. These early-stage prospective deities were ordered by Suyu before the coup began. He ordered them to come here in advance and carve the golden flames forbidden wood into a boat. Hearing this, everyone's eyes burst with a scorching light. Yes, the golden flames forbidden wood was the only known material that could withstand the water of the bitter sea. Of course, a boat made of this material could gallop across the bitter sea. Once they entered the bitter sea, no matter how powerful the holy magic hall was, could they chase them into the bitter sea? At that time, they could only stand on the shore of the bitter sea and watch them enter the depths of the bitter sea. Thinking of this, their cheeks, which were full of gloom, were once again filled with vigor. Including the 3 princes and princesses, 10 deities joined the refining process. Although the golden flames forbidden wood was difficult to refine, under the joint efforts of 10 deities, the outline of a small boat gradually appeared. Hurry up! No matter how good the book deity is, he will never calculate that there is a second way to leave the demonic dimension. They must be guarding the altar now, waiting for the holy magic hall to take action, and then they can catch us like turtles in a jar. Suyu's eyes twinkled with bright wisdom, and he clearly understood the motives and plans of Princess Yunxia and others. Ha! That demon concubine thinks that she has the right time, place, and people, but she doesn't know that you have made a fool out of all of them. The sixth princess was extremely happy. It seemed that she could make Princess Yunxia suffer, and she was particularly proud. Staring at Suyu, the sixth princess found Suyu more and more pleasing to the eye. In addition to the fact that he concealed the relationship between the giant of the bitter sea and her father, which caused her to have murderous intentions, getting along with him was really like a fish in water. At this moment, after carefully combing through it, one could see that Suyu was very generous. From the beginning to the end, Suyu's hope of escaping the demonic dimension was never pinned on the altar, but on the bitter sea. He carried out a series of plans, helped them launch a coup, and lured out the giant of the bitter sea, all for today. Of course, what she didn't know was that Suyu planned the coup, in addition to conveniently diverting the attention of the Holy Magic Hall. was more importantly to disrupt the demonic dimension and buy time for the Xing River creatures. Otherwise, Suyu would have had many opportunities to leave the demonic dimension. But the sixth princess rolled her eyes. "We are busy, and you're not doing anything?" Suyu said lightly. "I have more important things to do." "More important?" The sixth princess muttered, staring at Suyu suspiciously, and then very actively engaged in the project of refining the golden flames forbidden wood. In the Imperial City, the battle between the Holy Magic Hall and the Ku army came to an end. On one side, there were hundreds of ferocious demonic gods, and on the other side, there were ordinary demonic gods who were stubbornly resisting and in a desperate situation. In terms of strength and number, the two sides were several times apart, so the final outcome was obvious. All the Ku deities, including the princes and princesses, had become food in the mouths of the Holy Magic Hall's demonic gods. The demonic general of six paths greets the princess. The great commander of the Holy Magic Hall, the demonic god of six paths, led the ferocious demonic gods and came with an extremely respectful attitude, as if she was the real master of the Holy Magic Hall. Princess Yunxia nodded majestically. "The Holy Magic Hall is indeed worthy of being the Holy Magic Hall that I built." In the battle between the two sides, the Holy Magic Hall did not lose any deities. Only one or two were seriously injured. With such a ferocious army, who could compete with the Eastern and Western Divine Realms alliances? Not to mention, there were as many as 50 ordinary deities in the demonic dimension. Such a huge lineup was enough to crush the entire Xing River. Princess Yunxia took out a bottle of green spiritual liquid from her sleeve. "You did well today. Take it." The demonic god of six paths took the spiritual liquid, and a hint of joy appeared on his indifferent face. The rest of the demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall also showed hunger in their eyes. The Demon Cloud City Master, who had just joined the Holy Magic Hall, was half scared and half confused. His change was enough to explain the origin of the Holy Magic Hall. All the deities of the Holy Magic Hall were transformed from ordinary deities into blood-red demonic gods. After swallowing the strange green spiritual liquid, their bodies would gradually change. Not only would their strength become stronger, but their temperament would also gradually become violent and difficult to control. Every month, they had to swallow a dark green spirit liquid. Otherwise, they would feel so much pain that they would rather die. Many deities of the Holy Magic Hall could not bear the pain of the hell and chose to commit suicide. Only by swallowing the liquid could they relieve the pain. However, the more they swallowed, the more violent they would feel. Gradually, they would lose their reason and eventually become beasts that only knew how to kill. What was more terrible was that the green spiritual liquid made them slaves of Princess Yunxia. Without the spiritual liquid given by her, they could not live for more than a month at all. "Suyu, it's all your fault." The Demon Cloud City Master was full of hatred. He was reduced to a deity of the Holy Magic Hall because of Suyu. After the coup was over, Princess Yunxia looked at the giant of the Bitter Sea, who was gradually walking towards the Bitter Sea. She glanced at the deities of the Holy Magic Hall and said coldly, "Those who ate the princes and princesses just now, step forward." Swish! 5 gods stood out. The third prince and the others had been eaten by them. Chapter 1252. The 5 demonic gods were expressionless, as if they were being controlled. Despite their inner resistance, they did not resist and rushed to the giant of the Bitter Sea. The giant of the Bitter Sea suddenly turned back, opened his mouth, sucked the 5 gods into his mouth, and then ate them alive. From beginning to end, the 5 demonic gods did not resist at all. The Demon Cloud City Master's scalp was numb. This was the final stage of taking the green spiritual liquid. They would completely lose themselves and only know how to obey orders in nature. After the giant of the Bitter Sea finished eating, his ferocious face showed a hint of unwillingness. He stretched out his huge giant hand and pointed in the direction of Suyu and the others. There were also the first prince, the second princess, and the 6th princess. The 3 of them were the best of the princes and princesses. In theory, They were the reincarnation doppelgangers of the giant of the bitter sea, second only to the contemporary demon emperor. They must be swallowed. Princess Yunxia stared at the bitter sea and smiled charmingly. The game of catching turtles in a jar can begin. The demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall stepped forward. Capture the 3 princes and princesses alive. In addition, leave the feathered demon's body intact. After saying that, she followed them, surrounded by the Holy Magic Hall members. On the shore of the bitter sea, the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood boat gradually took shape. It was 10 feet long and could accommodate more than 30 people. Moreover, in order to prevent the water from the bitter sea from splashing into the boat, the extra materials of the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood were refined into a cover under the joint efforts of the 10 gods. When they sat in it and closed the cover, the water of the bitter sea could be completely isolated. Suyu couldn't help but click his tongue when he saw this. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like a submarine from his previous life. However, in the bitter sea, this kind of boat was the only one that could sail safely. Okay, get on the boat and leave immediately. They should have reacted by now. Suyu said. Swish. All of them jumped into the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood boat and quickly closed the cover. Just after this, waves of divine light fluctuated, dense like raindrops, flashing on the shore. You actually ran to the bitter sea. Are you desperate? Before appearing, the Demon Cloud City master sneered. However, when he opened his eyes, he was shocked by the golden boat that was half in the bitter sea. Is that the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood? Princess Yunxia also showed up. When she saw the small boat that had half of its body submerged in the bitter sea, the faint smile of victory suddenly shattered and was replaced by shock. How could there be such a huge Golden Flames Forbidden Wood? Was it something that a certain prince had painstakingly nurtured for many years? No way. The Golden Flames Forbidden Wood could not survive in the demon realm. The book deity appeared, and his eyes suddenly froze. He said in a low voice, he still has a backup plan. Princess, quickly let them take action, or else it will be too late. Without waiting for the book deity's reminder, Consort Yunxia had already issued an extremely decisive order. I've changed my mind. Kill them all without mercy. Don't hold back. They were about to escape, so how could they show any mercy? The demonic god of 6 paths shouted in a low voice and teleported over first. When the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood boat was about to be completely submerged in the bitter sea, he grabbed its tail. The faces of the people on the ship darkened. It's the demonic god of 6 paths, the disciple of the current demon emperor. The eldest prince's face darkened. As their teacher, the eldest prince knew how horrible the demonic god of 6 paths was. Even if the 9 princes and princesses joined forces, they would never be able to compete with the demonic god of 6 paths, the strongest demonic god below the demon emperor. The 6th princess also looked cold. At the last moment, the demonic god of 6 paths caught up with them. The most terrible thing was that it was the demonic god of 6 paths who attacked them. He alone could kill all of them. The only person on the ship who was still calm was Suyu. 5 elements divine prison, Suyu shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, under the ground on the shore of the bitter sea, a colorful small tower jumped out abruptly. The small tower pressed down on the head of the demonic god of 6 paths. Boom. Boom. The earth roared as if a whole cavern world was pressed down. Half of the body of the demonic god of 6 paths was pressed into the ground. Cracks spread on the surface of the body of the demonic god of 6 paths like spider silk. If it were an ordinary demonic god, this sudden pressure was enough to kill him. However, the demonic god of 6 paths was still holding on to the small boat tightly. Concubine Yunxia and the others secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Suyu had underestimated the demonic god of 6 paths. If the other demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall had attacked him, they might have escaped. However, when they were relieved, Suyu's voice came from the ship again. Star River Scripture. Along with the pungent smell of the divine blood, an angry roar came suddenly. A deity-level wild beast rushed out of the ship, roaring and biting the arm of the demonic god of 6 paths that was holding on to the ship. Seeing this, the book deity's face darkened. This was a deity-level wild beast that he had collected little by little with great efforts. Last time, it was snatched away by Suyu. He didn't expect to use it now. However, the arm of the demonic god of six paths was only bitten by the deity-level wild beast. The strength of his body was unparalleled. Along with a cold snort, the demonic god of six paths opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of demonic energy, which blew away the deity-level wild beast. The demonic god of six paths had a murderous look on his face. He was about to pull the ship out of the water of the bitter sea. This was a dangerous moment. Another cold roar came from the ship. Holy demon summoning technique. Suyu shouted. Suddenly, a rotating formation appeared in the sky. Earth-shaking roars were heard one after another. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked, including the first prince and the others in the ship. The secret technique of the royal family. The holy demon summoning technique. The sixth princess stared at Suyu in disbelief. Suyu was holding the divine blood of the seventh prince in his hand, and he was also emitting the royal scent of the seventh prince. The first prince was shocked. The second princess screamed, "Are you also a member of the royal family of the demon dimension?" The holy demon summoning technique was a top-secret technique that could only be practiced by the royal family of the demon race. No, except for the demon emperor, no one in the current royal family had practiced it. None of them had practiced it, but Suyu, a person from the Star River, had succeeded. Moreover, what was the matter with the scent of the seventh prince in his body? While they were still in shock, 9 ferocious beasts rushed out of the formation. They were excited, cruel, greedy, and agitated. When they found the demonic god of six paths in front of them, they roared in surprise and rushed forward. Chaos beasts. The Holy Magic Hall and Princess Yunxiao were all shocked and stepped back. They were the most terrible creatures in the demon dimension, the chaos beasts. There were 18 of them in total. 9 of them were taken as spiritual pets by the current demon emperor, and the other 9 were exiled to the Star River. How could they appear in the demon dimension? However, there was no time to think about it. The demonic god of six paths had been besieged by the chaos beasts. With a painful roar, the demonic god of six paths' arm, which was grabbing the ship, was bitten off by one of the chaos beasts. The god-level wild beast could only bite off a layer of skin, but the chaos beasts only needed one bite. The demonic god of six paths was shocked and tried to grab the ship with his other hand. However, the chaos beasts rushed forward and bit him. The other hand he stretched out was bitten off in the blink of an eye. Without any restraints, the ship finally slid into the sea of bitterness and quickly sank into it. No matter how many deities there were, they would never dare to enter the bitter sea to search for them. The demonic god of six paths was suppressed by the 5 elements divine prison and could not move. The chaos beasts devoured half of the demonic god of six paths in just a few seconds. Fortunately, Princess Yunxia ordered the deities of the Holy Magic Hall to drive the chaos beasts away. Although they could not be killed, they were summoned. When the time was up, they would naturally be sent back. The black-green water dragon in the 5 elements divine prison also took the opportunity to control the 5 elements divine prison to fall into the bitter sea and catch up with the ship. When the last ripple disappeared in the bitter sea, Princess Yunxia's majestic face finally became gloomy. The book deity and the demon cloud city master also looked gloomy. The demonic god of six paths, who was wounded all over, became more and more violent. On the coast, it was silent. With so many people, they thought it was easy to catch a turtle in a jar. Who would have thought that they would be fooled by the opponent? Dong! Dong! At this moment, the towering giant of the bitter sea came to the shore and slowly squatted down. Princess Yunxia's eyes lit up. Get on the shoulder of the giant of the bitter sea. Swish! Swish! More than 100 deities of the Holy Magic Hall jumped up one after another. Surprisingly, the giant of the bitter sea did not swallow them. Staring at the giant of the bitter sea close at hand, no deity was not afraid. This was a nightmare that had troubled the demon dimension for thousands of years. What if he suddenly turned his head and ate them? Or, he suddenly sank into the bitter sea, and they all fell into the water of the bitter sea. What should they do? With uneasiness, they followed the giant of the bitter sea into the bitter sea. In the depths of the bitter sea, a golden enclosed boat was like a lively little fish in the bitter sea. It leaped forward quickly, leaving one after another afterimage in the bitter sea. In the boat, there was a dead silence. The sixth princess looked at Su Yu with her pretty eyes full of splendor. She finally understood why Su Yu was indifferent when they were busy refining the boat and claimed to be doing more important things. It turned out that he had prepared 3 backup plans. If it weren't for these 3 decisive trump cards, just thinking about what would have happened to them was enough to make one shudder. Was there any luck to speak of when the demonic god of 6 paths made his move? No. She wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to express her inner emotions. Instead, Su Yu broke the strange silence. We escaped for the time being. Yes. Even the carefree second princess had an embarrassed look on her face. She stared at Su Yu like a mortal looking at a god. The eldest prince paused and cupped his hands. Brother, you demon, you have a good strategy. I admire you. Su Yu was the only one who could make the first prince of the demon dimension say this. Bai Wanqing moved a little closer to Su Yu, and her pretty face under the veil was slightly flushed. Her red lips opened slightly, and she said softly, My lord is wise. Wanqing is willing to follow you. Following such a wise and resourceful person, it was hard not to gain something. Su Yu glanced at her and did not pursue the past disrespect. My real name is Su Yu. You can call me Su Yu. Su Yu said casually, We can't relax yet. Entering the bitter sea is only a temporary escape from the pursuit of Princess Yunxia. We still have to face the pursuit of the soldiers of the bitter sea. Don't forget, the 3 of you are his targets. The eldest prince, the second princess, and the 6th princess were shocked. Indeed, Princess Yunxia may not be able to go deep into the bitter sea, but the giant of the bitter sea could. Chapter 1253. Furthermore, we've only entered the Sea of Bitterness and found the exit to the Milky Way. We don't have any clues. We still don't know how the undying demon emperor escaped from the Sea of Bitterness. Everyone nodded. Escaping into the Sea of Bitterness was only the first step. How to leave the demonic world was the ultimate goal. The Sea of Bitterness is boundless. If we search for the exit aimlessly, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. The first prince pondered and said, We must think of a way to determine the search area. Everyone nodded. Judging from the coastline of the bitter sea, the size of the bitter sea was no less than the entire demon realm. How the undying demon emperor had left back then was a complete mystery. He had to find some clues. I have some clues, but they are very weak. I have limited information about the demon world, so I need you to analyze them. The 3 princes and princesses were shocked. What, you have a clue? The 6th princess was surprised. Su Yu nodded. I only analyzed the clues. The undying demon emperor was dragged into the bitter sea by the giants. He didn't have a golden flames forbidden wood boat like ours, so it was impossible for him to resist the water of the bitter sea for too long. Therefore, the passageway he discovered couldn't be too far from the coast. The 3 princes and princesses nodded in agreement. According to the records of the giant of the bitter sea that I have observed and looked up, every time the giant of the bitter sea appears, it is near the coast. I guess that the nest of the giant of the bitter sea is probably not far from the coast. That place might be where the undying demon emperor discovered the passageway and escaped. After listening to Su Yu's analysis, the eyes of the 3 princes and princesses lit up. The eldest prince muttered, I know the nest of the giant of the bitter sea. Su Yu was overjoyed. Sure enough, the people of the demon dimension had more comprehensive information. The second princess said, It's nothing. I also know that there are relevant records in the royal secret scriptures. Every time the giant of the bitter sea goes ashore and where it goes when it goes offshore, there are detailed records. After many years of summarization, we can speculate the location of the giant's nest. It is true. The 6th princess nodded in confirmation. Su Yu smiled. It seems like we have a greater chance. Soon, They turned around and moved quickly toward the nest of the giant of the bitter sea. After driving for 2 months, they had traversed almost from one end of the coastline to the other. If they were in the sky, the gods might be able to reach them with a single thought. However, in the bitter sea, the speed of the golden boat was only comparable to that of a mortal ferry, and it took them 2 months to get there. Soon, on this day, the eldest prince's gaze turned serious. In the past 2 months, they could infer from the abnormal fluctuations of the bitter sea water that the giant of the bitter sea had always been chasing behind them. And as the bitter sea water became more and more turbulent, they knew that the giant of the bitter sea was very close. At this moment, the sea of bitterness around them was surging. Undercurrents stirred up, causing their boat to become extremely unstable as it sailed forward. Open the skylight and prepare to search for the passage. So you said, under his control, 18 pieces of the golden flames forbidden wood inside the ship shrank, revealing a gap. However, the water of the bitter sea from the outside did not pour in because there was a layer of transparent material that was invisible to the naked eye at the gap. It was woven by the meridians of the golden flames forbidden wood. Not only was it transparent, but it could also resist the water of the bitter sea. Thus, the situation of the outside world appeared before his eyes. In front of them was a boundless area of rubble. Pieces of huge stones were put together into an extremely huge stone bed, with a radius of 1,000,000 feet. Is this the bed of the giant of the bitter sea? The second princess took a breath. This place was already the lair of the giant of the bitter sea. If the inference was correct, the passage to leave the demon realm was in the nearby waters. The people on the ship looked around through the windows. In their close search, the giant of the bitter sea seemed to notice something. Suddenly, he roared up to the sky, took a step, and galloped in the bitter sea. The giant of the bitter sea. What's wrong? The book deity was shocked. Princess Yunxiao looked surprised and shook her head slowly. I don't know. They must have done something, and the giant of the bitter sea is anxious. Don't let them run away. Time passed by, but they could never find where the passage was, not even a trace. They had almost searched the nest of the giant of the bitter sea. Did we look in the wrong place? The eldest prince fell into doubt. The sixth princess was also lost in thought. The second princess was anxious. Why don't we leave this place first and come back quietly later? Looking out of the window, the water of the bitter sea was stormy, and the second princess's heart was pounding. The giant of the bitter sea was approaching. It was the most critical moment. Suyu had no confidence in his heart. After all, the existence of the passage was all speculation, and there was no evidence. However, the more critical the moment, the calmer Suyu was. Quiet. This is the place where the passage is most likely to appear. We must have missed something. The second princess hurriedly said, What can we miss? We have searched everywhere, and we have almost dug 3 feet into the seabed. Suddenly, Suyu's mind flashed with a flash of inspiration. Dig 3 feet into the seabed. Suyu's eyes became brighter and brighter. Through the window, he stared at the huge stone bed below and said, How could I forget the stone bed? Everyone was shocked. Could it be that the passageway was in the stone bed? You might want to think about it. This passage is the second passage to the outside world. The giant of the bitter sea is entrenched here. Where's the best place to guard it? Of course, the closest place. For a giant of the bitter sea who has been sleeping for thousands of years, the closest place is, of course, under the bed. Everyone, focus on the stone bed. The escape of the undead demon emperor happened 1,000 years ago, which means that there was at least one loophole at that time. Now that we can't find it, it must be blocked by the giant of the bitter sea. As long as we find the blocked stone, we can find the passage. The second princess blinked. But such a big stone bed, there are countless stones. Which one is the blocked stone? This time, Suyu did not answer, and the sixth princess knocked her on the head. Sister, you are really stupid. The chaotic world has existed for 10 million years, and the blocked stone is newly added. There is a big difference between new and old. The second princess suddenly understood. At this moment, The water of the bitter sea was becoming more and more turbulent, forming a whirlpool on the seabed, making it more difficult for them to find it. However, they had narrowed the target to the smallest range, and the goal was extremely clear. Finally, after half a cup of tea, the second princess suddenly screamed and pointed through the window to an inconspicuous hill. "Look, that hill! It has decayed less than the rest of the stones, and the traces of erosion by the water of the bitter sea are far less intense than the rest of the stone bed." Everyone looked over, and sure enough, the hill was obviously much newer than the rest of the stone bed. When they drove the boat over, they were even more delighted to find that there was an extremely weak current near the hill. Although the water of the bitter sea was raging at this moment, they could clearly feel that a small, unique stream of water surrounded the hill. There is a steady flow of water penetrating under the hill. Under the hill, there must be a bottomless pit. So you analyzed. Everyone on the ship was overjoyed. The passage was really here. Their speculation was not wrong. But how do we push the hill away? The second princess asked straightforwardly. Suddenly, the faces of everyone on the boat stiffened. To be able to experience the erosion of the sea of bitterness for thousands of years and still exist, needless to say, its hardness was definitely not inferior to the golden flames forbidden wood. It was simply unrealistic to smash it with a small boat. But at this moment, they were deep in the boat, and it was even more impossible to leave the boat and rely on people to break it. They were afraid that once the boat was opened, the water of the bitter sea would pour in and cause all of them to rot in the boat. There was a dead silence in the boat. It was not easy to find the passage, but it was blocked by a hill. After a long while, a soft sigh came. "Float to the surface of the sea, Master." Bai Wanqing's purple eyes flashed, and she spied on her master's intention. The purple-eyed, demonic god patted her hand. "Oh, I am about to die. If I don't go, who will? So you, float to the surface and let me out. I will sneak into this place again and move the hill away. With my remaining divine power, I should be able to hold on until the hill is moved away." The eldest prince and others were silent. In the current predicament, a god had to be sacrificed. No one was willing to sacrifice their life and death. The self-sacrifice of the purple-eyed, demonic god moved them deeply. So you shook his head. "No, even if you sacrifice yourself, you may not be able to move this mountain." As he spoke, he steered the boat and crashed into a fist-sized stone next to the hill. Compared to the stone, the 10-feet-long boat was no different from a behemoth. Coupled with the attributes of the material of the boat, even a god would not be able to withstand the impact. However, the result of the collision surprised all the people on the boat. They heard the boat shake violently, and a strong shock came from the bow of the boat. The whole boat was severely knocked over, and it tumbled several times in the bitter sea before it stabilized. If it were not for the special material of the golden flames forbidden wood, this shock would have been enough to break the boat. How can a material that can withstand the attack of the bitter sea be ordinary? Suyu shook his head and said, "The rocks here have been under the tremendous pressure of the sea for many years and have become extremely heavy. Therefore, even if you sacrifice yourself, you will not be able to move the hill." Hearing this, everyone was desperate. Did they have to use the whole boat to move this mountain? "There is no other way. Let me do it." Suyu sighed deeply. If he could, he would never want to use it again. But there was no other way. He pointed a finger between his eyebrows. His eyebrows squirmed, and a silver-white eyeball suddenly appeared. The moment it appeared, all the gods on the boat were shocked, and they subconsciously exclaimed, "The Tao Tai's eye." Legend has it that it was a ferocious beast of heaven and earth that fed on gods. Everyone present knew its eyes. This was the fourth time that Suyu had used the Tao Tai's eye. The more frequently he used it, the faster the Tao Tai's eye grew. Now, it was in a semi-mature state. If it evolved to the mature stage, Suyu would have to feed on gods, and the Tao Tai's eye would expand infinitely, devouring more and more until Suyu could no longer satisfy the Tao Tai's eye, and he would be swallowed by it. But now, there was no other way. Chapter 1254. Heaven-devouring demonic eyes. Suyu's eyebrows suddenly shone brightly, emitting a shocking, devouring power. The boulder, which was the size of a hill, shook for a while and moved slowly. The giant of the bitter sea, who noticed their movements, roared again and stepped on the water of the bitter sea like thunder. In the boat, they had vaguely seen a wall-like existence in the water. That was the calf of the giant of the bitter sea. In less than 10 breaths, the giant of the bitter sea would arrive here. The boulder was still moving slowly, gradually revealing the edge of a dark hole. The water of the bitter sea immediately rushed into the hole and poured madly into this bottomless pit. After 5 breaths, half of the hole was revealed. The hole was not big. Only when it was fully exposed could it accommodate the small boat of 10 feet in size. There were 2 breaths left. The giant of the bitter sea had arrived. The boundless, huge body stood in front of them like a pillar supporting the sky. He lifted his gigantic foot that covered the sky, rolled up the water of the bitter sea, and stomped on the entrance of the cave. This stomp would not only seal the entrance of the cave, but it would also shatter the entire boat. At the critical moment, the hill was finally completely moved away and was swallowed by the eyes of Tao Tai. The whole hole finally appeared. The giant's foot was less than 100,000 feet away from their boat. For the giant, it was only a moment. However, the boat, accompanied by the huge water of the bitter sea, instantly drilled into the hole. Almost at the moment when the boat drilled into the hole, the giant's foot stepped hard. The bottom of his foot came into contact with the tail of the small boat, causing a crack to appear on the small boat. At the same time, the tail of the golden flames forbidden wood boat easily pierced the foot of the giant of the bitter sea, bringing out a handful of milky, white giant blood. With the power of the giant's soul, the boat spun wildly in the hole and fell straight down. The people sitting on the boat were all shocked and on tenterhooks. However, what shocked them even more was that the giant of the bitter sea did not kill them. He squatted down, opened his mouth, and sucked in the hole fiercely. Suddenly, the water of the bitter sea stopped falling and was rolled back into the bitter sea. Suyu's boat was also swept away, and it was almost sucked back into the boat. Fortunately, Suyu's reaction was extremely fast. He stabilized the small boat, went against the current, and drilled downward with all his might. However, the suction force of the giant was getting stronger and stronger. It seemed like it wouldn't stop until it captured Suyu and the others. The countercurrent was getting stronger and stronger, and their boat was falling slower and slower. Once they could no longer hold on and were sucked back, none of them would be able to survive. Suyu's heart sank slightly. Could it be that all his efforts would be for naught in the end? However, Suyu did not give up. He clenched his teeth and continued to control the small boat. Even though the speed of the boat's sinking was getting slower and slower, he still did not give up. Every breath he took, he sank 100 feet. Every breath, he sank 8 zhong. Every breath, he sank 5 zhong. 30 feet, 20 feet, 1 zhong, 1 chi. At this point, the speed at which the small boat was sinking was negligible, and it was almost hanging in the air. As time passed, it gradually floated upwards. He couldn't take it anymore. If the death deity can do it, why can't we? Suyu had never been resigned to his fate. How could he die here? While he was struggling, Suyu suddenly caught a glimpse of a golden rib in the passageway. It was deeply embedded in the passageway. What was that? Suyu was surprised for a while. There was no sign of corrosion in the bitter sea water. It must be extraordinary. Suyu steered the small boat and slowly approached the golden rib. When he was a foot closer, he could clearly see that it was a metal-like bone, full of Buddha nature. No matter how the bitter sea water washed over it, it was not corroded at all. The bone of a Buddhist god? Suyu was slightly stunned. He also found that on the side of the golden rib, there was a groove. It seemed that there used to be a rib in it, but now it was gone. Suyu steered the small boat, and the stern swept the golden rib fiercely, sweeping it out of the cave wall. Suddenly, the golden rib peeled off and was sucked up along with the water. Soon, a painful roar was heard, and the suction suddenly disappeared. Suyu and the others were freed. They followed the collapsing water column and fell madly, almost 10,000 feet in one breath. Boom! Suddenly, The small boat seemed to fall on the water, making a roaring sound. Looking out through the window, they actually appeared in another vast galaxy. The bitter sea water that had just flowed out converged into a big river, flowing into the distance, gradually merging into the galaxy and disappearing. When they looked up, their pupils shrank. Here, they saw the whole picture of the demon world. They thought it was similar to the shape of the cavern world, but now they were horrified. The shape of the demon world was shaped like a human womb. The huge womb hung in the galaxy, beating constantly. In the womb, a baby was faintly visible, sleeping. The outline of the baby was like the giant of the bitter sea, using the demon world as a pregnant womb, constantly absorbing nutrients and growing by itself. Even the three princes who were born in the demon world saw the full picture of the demon world for the first time. No matter how they looked at it, the demon world was like a womb dedicated to breeding the giant of the bitter sea. The water of the bitter sea was like the amniotic fluid in the womb, and the gods and royal members on the land were its nutrients. The crowd gasped and was deeply shocked by the scene in front of them. So he was also a little shocked. How was this still a cavern world? In addition to the shock, everyone felt a sense of survival after a disaster. The thrilling journey could be described as ups and downs, which made people shudder with fear. A few of the gods were still trembling slightly. Fortunately, we managed to leave the demon world alive, a god said as he wiped off his cold sweat. But as soon as the voice fell, suddenly, from the cave that was still leaking the bitter sea water, a finger hundreds of thousands of feet long stretched out, as if falling from the sky, crushing their golden boat. The giant of the bitter sea still did not give up. He used his finger to pass through the demon world and crush them. Caught off guard, the boat had no room to dodge and was locked by this finger. With the horror of the giant of the bitter sea, no creature in the galaxy could resist this finger. The boat of the golden flames forbidden wood was no exception. At the critical moment, seeing that there was no way to escape, Suyu shouted, "Fight! I don't believe I can't even kill a finger." Suyu steered the small boat into a perfectly straight line. The 100-foot-long small boat suddenly became like a javelin, facing his finger with equal harshness. Puff! The strong body of the giant of the bitter sea was easily pierced by the bow of the boat, penetrating its finger. In the demon world, the giant of the bitter sea roared in pain, penetrating the wall. However, this move did not make the giant of the bitter sea retreat, but stimulated its fierceness. Regardless of the finger being pierced, it carried the holy power that could not be resisted between heaven and earth, crushing down. Crack! The bow of the golden flames forbidden wood broke, and cracks spread along the bow in all directions inside the boat. The second princess trembled all over, looking at the finger crushing down, and was desperate. It's over. Even Suyu felt an emptiness in his heart, which was filled with gloom. It was really over. That kind of power that was above the galaxy could not be resisted at all. Are we really going to die here? Suyu smiled bitterly at the corner of his mouth. He had gone through great storms and waves, but after all, he could not break through the barrier in front of him. Under such power, anyone would be full of despair. Seeing that the giant finger was like the sky, crushing them all into dust, they no longer had any chance to escape. In the end, they did not succeed in escaping. However, at this moment, Suyu suddenly opened his eyes. He sensed a familiar aura. However, he heard a sound that shook the universe and transmitted to the soul. The giant of the bitter sea in the demon world suddenly roared in pain, as if he had suffered an unprecedented injury. So much so that he quickly withdrew his finger, ignoring Suyu and the others who were about to be crushed to death. At the same time, the cave was quickly closed by the giant of the bitter sea. He was afraid of something. Suyu's pupil shrank, and his face was full of surprise. He rushed out of the golden boat and looked around. That fleeting breath, he would never mistake it. It was Yunyazi. "Master!" Suyu shouted excitedly towards the silent, pitch-black galaxy. However, except for his echo, there was nothing in the galaxy. Suyu was confused. Why did Yunyazi come? But he refused to show up. Since the relocation of the Jojo continent, he said that he had to rush to the galaxy to investigate. He had not shown up since. When he finally showed up, he helped Suyu scare away the giant of the bitter sea and never appeared again. Chi! Suddenly, a spot of light shot from the distant starry sky and sank into Suyu's brow. Suddenly, the voice of Yun Yazi came from inside. Master is fine, don't worry. Be careful, don't get close to the demon world again. The voice was hurried and short, and there was no other words. Suyu was upset. What was Yun Yazi doing? Why didn't he show up? Also, what was that sound he made just now? How could it scare away the giant of the bitter sea? To what extent was his soul restored now? At the critical moment, the master came forward and finally saved Suyu and them. The demon cave was closed, and they were finally completely out of the demon world. The few people who survived the disaster quickly left this place and arrived at an abandoned cavern world far away from the demon world. This place was devoured by the demons of the Holy Magic Hall, and there was nothing left except silence and darkness. I didn't expect to leave the demon world alive. The purple-eyed demonic god looked around and was filled with emotion. The first prince also had mixed feelings. What he experienced in the past 6 months was more thrilling than what he had experienced in his life, especially when he entered the bitter sea and escaped from the demon world at the last moment. It was even more dangerous. Raising his head and looking at Suyu, the first prince sincerely bowed. Thank you, Brother Su. Without you, the descendants of the demon royal family. After a pause, he shook his head and sighed. It should be said that we 3 reincarnated clones had no way to escape. The second princess smiled and said, Thank you. If you need any help in the future, just say the word, and I will help you to the end. The one who had not spoken was the sixth princess. After a long silence, the sixth princess sighed and said, Thanks to you, we can leave the demonic world. I think the Holy Magic Hall will soon catch up with us. Could you please help us to the end and remove our royal breath? Suyu looked at her and looked at the first prince, who bowed his head in silence, with a hint of sarcasm in the corner of his mouth. Helping you to remove the royal breath is a promise, and I will do it. However, let me ask, what are you going to do? At some point, the 6 city masters who followed them quietly surrounded Suyu, the purple-eyed demonic god, and Bai Wanqing. The first prince and the sixth princess each pulled out an emperor-based saint artifact. Chapter 1255. The second princess was dumbfounded. Big brother, sixth sister, what are you doing? Are you crazy? How can you treat your allies like this? The sixth princess shook her head and sighed. Sister, we have a common goal in the demon world, so we are allies. But look around, where are we? Xing River. The creatures of Xing River and the creatures of the demon world have always been incompatible. Back in Xing River, Suyu regained the identity of the acting god of the Great Eastern Alliance. But they were still demons. There was an irreconcilable relationship between them. Suyu's actions along the way were unpredictable, and they could never see what he would do next. Even his allies, what they saw along the way made them feel frightened. The eldest prince said in a deep voice, Suyu is too dangerous. We have to guard against him. The first prince and the sixth princess suddenly changed their expressions. It was unexpected. However, Suyu and the purple-eyed demonic god were calm, as if they had already expected it. Ha ha, you are indeed the best royal descendants of the demon world. You will choose to fight against each other, and I would have done the same. Suyu laughed. The eldest prince and the sixth princess's pupils shrank. You expected this again? Of course. I don't believe it. The sixth princess said vigilantly. She did not believe that Suyu had analyzed the current situation before he left the demon world. At this moment, behind the eldest prince and the sixth princess, there was a sudden gust of wind. The eldest prince was seriously injured, and the blood of the giant of the bitter sea remained in his body, so he had no time to resist. He was hit by the wind and immediately vomited blood, falling into a semi-conscious state. The sixth princess was intact and turned around angrily. How dare you betray us? The ones who attacked were not bystanders, but the 6 city lords who were loyal to the eldest prince and the second princess. We have never betrayed you because we have never been loyal to you. We have always been loyal to the Sea-Watch City Lord. The 6 City Lord gods had a cynical look on their faces. The 6th princess felt dizzy. How can you be loyal to him? Why are you loyal to him? It's very simple. He can take us away from the demon world. That's all. As for you, a group of princes and princesses who can't even protect themselves, why do you deserve our loyalty? The 6 City Lord gods surrounded the 6th princess. The 6th princess was sad. Their betrayal was like a bolt from the blue. When did this happen? The 6th princess gritted her teeth. 1 month before the coup. The 6 City Lord gods said with a faint smile, "The early-stage prospective deity emissary he sent convinced us." How could you be convinced so easily? If you don't choose the coup, wouldn't it be better to stay in the Devil Realm? The 6th princess said. The 6 City Lords' faces darkened, and they sneered. Are you still pretending not to know? We, the deities, are well aware of how the Holy Magic Hall has developed step by step from nothing, from weak to strong. The 6th princess's face darkened. In the beginning, there were only demonic gods of 6 paths in the Holy Magic Hall, and now there were hundreds of demonic gods. Where did they come from? Of course, they did not appear out of thin air. Rather, they were transformed from city lords. The change of the Demon Cloud City Master explained everything. This was an open secret, and all the city lords and deities had a tacit understanding. Once you're taken into the Holy Magic Hall, you will completely lose your freedom and eventually become a monster. The 6 of us have long wanted to escape from the Devil Realm, but there is no way. In the long run, we will one day be transformed into the monsters of the Holy Magic Hall. And the emissary of the Sea-Watch City Master gave us a chance to escape from the Devil Realm. So, of course, we chose to be loyal to him. Hearing this, the 6th princess was speechless. It turned out that from the very beginning, all the princes and princesses had been schemed against. The city lords that they thought they were loyal to had, in fact, become Su Yu's men long ago. But you've already left the Devil Realm. The Xing River is vast, and you can go wherever you want. Do you still need to continue to be loyal? The 6th princess rolled her eyes. Oh, your royal highness, there's no need to sow discord. We can see it more clearly than you. This is the Xing River, the land of all living beings. Once we demonic gods appear, we will be incompatible with each other. How long can we live in the Xing River? The Sea-Watch City Master promised us that as long as we are under his control and do not harm the Xing River, he can give us the status of Xing River gods, and we do not have to worry about being attacked. The 6th princess gritted her teeth and stared at Su Yu fiercely. You bastard! You have everything planned out. However, do the 6 of you think that you can suppress me? The 6th princess's mouth evoked a cold, murderous intent. The 6 city gods smiled faintly. Of course, we can't suppress you, but the Sea-Watch City Master has prepared some gifts for you. Gee! The 6 of them took out several blood-red centipedes at the same time, exuding an amazing, corrosive smell. If it was not the blood of the giant of the bitter sea, what could it be? Where did you get this? The 6th princess's pupil shrank, showing her inner fear. How the 7th prince died, tragically under the blood of the giant of the bitter sea. She remembered it vividly. But she remembered very clearly that the blood-red centipedes prepared by the 7th prince were not taken away by the other 3 city gods, and they should have been buried in the mouths of the monsters of the Holy Magic Hall. Of course, it was the Sea-Watch City Lord who secretly ordered us to demand it from them. The 3 City Lord gods are also our people. It's a pity that they were dragged down by those stupid princes and princesses and couldn't escape. What? The 6th princess was completely shocked by Su Yu's means and lost her temper. She thought she was clever, but in Su Yu's hands, she was only qualified to be played. Your Royal Highness, it was not easy to escape from the demon world. It is better to obediently surrender to the Sea-Watch City Master and cherish your life. It is better to fall into her hands than to become food in the mouth of the giant of the bitter sea. Looking around at the deadly blood-red centipedes, the 6th princess smiled bitterly and stared at Su Yu viciously. Did you want to control us princes and princesses like this from the beginning? No. Su Yu shrugged. I'm just guarding against your betrayal. If you do your part, I'll dissolve your royal aura and we'll go our separate ways. But if you have ulterior motives, these backup plans are prepared for you." Hearing this, the sixth princess was stunned. "What you said is true. Well, there is no need to lie to you." A bitter smile bloomed on the sixth princess's red lips. She and the eldest prince thought they were clever, but they were caught in a trap of their own making. After struggling for a long time, she said, "Then what do you want to do to me? It is impossible to let you go. You two are too strong. If there is no way to win, it will be difficult to deal with you, so I can only control you in the palm of my hand." They could only blame themselves for having disloyalty, so you had to be wary of them. "How do you control it?" the sixth princess asked. The six city gods looked at each other and smiled. One of the gods took out 2 six-colored marks. "I have prepared them for you." The sixth princess was annoyed and even prepared the 6 god marks. "Your Royal Highness, let me remind you that this is a special 6 god mark. Unless the 6 of us act at the same time, even if you find 100 gods, you can't solve it. And if you're not careful, you may trigger the mark and kill you." The sixth princess smiled bitterly. Had even the last loophole been blocked? The 9 god marks of Puppy could be erased directly if the 9 gods were found. Chapter 1256. As for the 6 of them, could they unlock the mark? Not to mention that the sixth princess had always been cruel and merciless to traitors. It was Suyu who could give them benefits now, not them. It was absolutely impossible to unlock the mark for the siblings. After struggling for a long time, the sixth princess finally lowered her proud head. She and the sleeping prince were both implanted with the mark of the 6 gods. The other end of the mark was held in Suyu's hands, and with a single thought, he could destroy them in an instant. The descendants of the 2 strongest deities of the demon world were firmly held in the palm of Suyu's hand. Especially the eldest prince, with his strength at his peak, looking at the galaxy, except for the first demon emperor, the god of death, and the demonic god of 6 paths, who could rival him. At least in the East and West alliances, no one was his opponent. Coupled with the sixth princess, who was comparable to the Dakini and the 6 city masters, the power that Suyu had was terrifying. "Ha ha!" With a chuckle, the dog emerged from the 9 jade spiritual pearl, smiled, and stretched out its paw to touch the head of the sixth princess. "Sister, congratulations, you're going to be a dog too. Huh. Why am I so happy? Ha ha ha." The sixth princess's face turned blue. "Dog. Baby, yes. And it must be a dog who can warm the bed." Boom! The sixth princess was stunned as if she had been struck by lightning. "Ha ha! I can finally turn the other princes into dogs. Wahaha! Why can't I stop laughing? Ha ha!" The dog stood with her legs akimbo, looking up to the sky and laughing. Even if her stomach was cramping, she couldn't stop laughing. Everyone stared at her, their foreheads full of black lines. "It's over. The 9th princess is crazy." "What about me? Suyu, what are you going to do with me?" The second princess interrupted at the wrong time. Suyu glanced at her. Your strength is average, and you're just a freeloader. Fend for yourself. I don't care about you. Who are you calling a freeloader? How can you say such insulting words without hiding it?" "Well, I'll put it euphemistically. You are a freeloader. That sounds a little better. Wait, this is still a freeloader. I won't do it. Since you brought me away from the devil realm, you must be responsible for me." Although she was straightforward, she was not stupid. Think about it. If the daughter of the demon emperor appeared in the galaxy, what kind of wonderful things would happen once the news spread? Of course, it was a group of gods from the galaxy who would capture her and conduct human research on her. Then, they would make her into a specimen for a traveling exhibition. Following Suyu is undoubtedly the safest choice. Only then did Suyu heave a sigh of relief. From the moment he entered the demon dimension until now, Suyu's nerves had been stretched taut, and he hadn't been able to rest. "Where is this place in the Xing River?" Suyu asked. One of the City Lord gods said, "I have a map of the Star River that I prepared many years ago in case I need to escape. I have no use for it now, so I'll give it to you." Suyu took it, unfolded it, and immediately confirmed his location. He then said in surprise, "Why are we here?" In the map, he was extremely far away from the Great Eastern Alliance, but only a month away from the Great Western Alliance. The Demon Realm is so close to the Great Western Alliance? This is rather unbelievable. The demon god who gave the map said, "The Great Western Alliance is indeed close to the Demon Realm and has been attacked by the Demon Realm all year round. Because of this, there are many strong people in the Alliance who fight against the demons and have very effective means. Unlike the gods of the Great Eastern Alliance, the Great Western Alliance has achieved great unity. All the gods obey the orders of the Alliance Master, and each god has set up an anti-demon team to obey the orders of the Alliance Master at any time and unite to fight against the demons." So you vaguely remembered that Lin Lang came from a famous anti-demon family. Could it be that Lin Lang actually came from the Great Western Alliance? Unfortunately, Lin Lang was not found in the Demon Realm. If she had been found, she could have been brought back. At this moment, the sixth princess looked into the distance. There are creatures approaching. The rest of the gods examined it carefully for a while before they could confirm it. It could be seen that the strength of the sixth princess was higher than them. Who is it, and how strong is it? So you asked. It should be the people of the Great Western Alliance. They often have investigation teams that come to the vicinity of the Demon Realm to explore. The sixth princess said, "As for the strength, it is most likely not high. The investigation team is actually cannon fodder, and 9 out of 10 will be annihilated by the demon soldiers. The strength of this group is not high, and the strongest is only the third realm of the Dust Fairy. Moreover, they have encountered a little trouble. A team of patrolling demon soldiers found them and are quietly moving towards them. They still don't know it." The sixth princess looked at Suyu. "Do you want to go and help the demon soldiers and kill them all?" She still couldn't completely change her position from the demon realm and subconsciously thought for the sake of the demon realm. "No, let's go and have a look." Swish, all the gods instantly teleported away. In the starry sky, a medium-sized warship quietly slid in the Xing River towards the demon realm. On the warship, there were strong people of different ages. The leader was an old man with a broken arm. He was stooped and had a fierce face. The rest of the people were mostly fierce people. Among the crowd, there was a 10-year-old girl with fair makeup. Her eyes were bright and kind, and she was as chubby as a porcelain doll. She stood out from the crowd of vicious people. "Boss Wu, it's almost enough. If we go forward, it will be very easy to be discovered by the demon soldiers." A strong man of the second realm of the Dust Fairy said cautiously. The old man with a broken arm was their Boss Wu. "Do you think I don't want to retreat?" Boss Wu said gloomily. "But the damned Jade Feet anti-demon guards have left a mark on our warship. If we do not follow the agreement and sail into the demon realm to explore, the mark will record it. In this way, our year of hard work is equivalent to a waste." A group of fierce people was annoyed. "Damn anti-demon guards. They rarely enter the demon realm, but they want us to come in. They are clearly forcing us to die. The most hateful thing is that they have left a seal on us. We must do as they say, otherwise we will die without a burial place. Hey, we are all condemned prisoners. If we want to live, we have to accept the task." As they were talking, suddenly Boss Wu's face froze. Silence. There seems to be movement. The warship suddenly became quiet, and pairs of shining eyes searched in the darkness. Suddenly, they finally found that a warship carved from white bones was rushing towards them. On the white bone ship, there were dozens of strong demon soldiers. The lowest cultivation level was the Dust Fairy realm, and the highest was a blood-red early-stage quasi-god. Hiss! It's a quasi-god. Boss Wu took a deep breath, and his face was filled with horror. At this moment, he did not dare to have the courage to sail forward. He shouted, "Turn the rudder, retreat." Amidst the fierce roars, the creatures on the ship were all alarmed. They controlled the warships to flee in panic. The demon soldiers who had already discovered them quickly chased after them. Compared with them, the white-boned ship of the demon soldiers was faster and soon caught up with them. On the white-boned ship, more than a dozen small boats descended from all directions, surrounded the warship that could not escape, and slowly approached. "Hey, the Great Western Alliance has sent a big supplement again. Eat as much as you want." The early-stage quasi-god sneered and stood on the bow of the ship with his arms crossed, enjoying the panic and despair of the warship crew. At this moment, the warship crew were all pale and desperate. "It's over. We can't go back." Bossu had seen great winds and waves, and he calmed down at the moment of crisis. His eyes flashed with viciousness, and his remaining right hand stretched out like an eagle's claw, hooked a crew member next to him, and then threw him out of the ship and into the galaxy. "Bossu, what are you doing, ah?" Before he could resist, he was surrounded by the demon soldiers' boats. They fished him out and devoured him on the spot. The bloody scene greatly stimulated their nerves and stimulated their instinctive desire to survive. They saw Boss Wu's intention and threw out the crew to distract the demon soldiers in front of the ship, and took the opportunity to escape. No matter how far they could escape for a while. Boss Wu did not blink and threw out another crew member. The demon soldiers in front of the ship were once again distracted. But beside Boss Wu, no one dared to stand. Boss Wu's eyes flashed coldly, and he rushed into the crowd like lightning and grabbed. The crew members were shocked and tried their best to escape. Boss Wu grabbed a few times, but missed. Finally, he suddenly hooked and caught a crew member who could not escape in time. Boss Wu didn't even look at her and threw her out without saying a word. The person who was thrown was still in the air, and she let out a crisp scream. Taking a closer look, he saw that it was the 10-year-old girl who had just appeared. Her eyes widened in fear and anger, but her body was completely out of control, and she was thrown out of the ship. The demon soldiers below were all excited, and they screamed and rushed toward this place. All of them opened their bloody mouths, looking forward to eating this tender crew member. Looking at the ferocious face in front of her, the girl screamed in fear and fainted on the spot. Many demon soldiers rushed over like locusts, rushing to eat her. However, just as they were about to enter the hole, a boundless divine power stirred up the galaxy, broke through the layers of obstacles, and first pierced through the white bone ship of the demon soldiers. The early-stage prospective god on the ship, who still had a playful smile on his face, was turned into nothingness by the divine power. He did not even have time to react. The hull of the ship was pierced, and it quickly sank. All the demon soldiers on the ship fell into the galaxy. The terrifying power brought by the divine power set off a huge wave in the galaxy, and all the small boats were capsized in an instant. Even the battleship was fluttering and about to be overturned. Boss Wu was shocked, demon god, staring at the end of the sky, at the black demonic cloud moving toward them. Everyone on the battleship was in despair. Swoosh, a streak of purple light flashed, and a fiend celestial shimmering with purple light and a handsome silver-haired fiend celestial appeared. They did not attack the battleship, but the silver-haired demon grabbed the 10-year-old girl who had fallen into the galaxy and fainted. Chapter 1257. Suyu stared at the one-armed old man, his eyes filled with a chilly, killing intent. The one-armed old man's heart turned cold, and his dry lips continued to tremble. Lord Demon God, if she's not enough, there's still a ship full of people. Please let me live. The crew members were horrified and furious. There is no need for that, as I only want your life, Suyu said coldly. Schwa, without him needing to do anything, a city lord fiend celestial flicked his finger and reduced him to dust. What about the others? Kill them too? Suyu looked at them, who were panicking, and shook his head slightly. There is no need for that. I have something to ask them. Leaping onto the warship, Suyu hugged the little girl in his arms and asked, Why is she on the warship? Who are you people? Based on their appearances, most of the people present were vicious and evil people. But the little girl in his arms was Gongsun Wuxia. She had come to the Great Eastern Alliance with the all-access merchant ship. How could she appear in the team of the Great Western Alliance and be associated with these vicious people? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Suyu wouldn't have believed that this was Gongsun Wuxia. She was here, but why didn't she see the severed fairy cliffmaster? When the crew members met Suyu's gaze, they all trembled in fear. We are death row prisoners of the Great Western Alliance, and she's also a death row prisoner. We were assigned a task to come to the Devil Realm to investigate the enemy. Only by completing the task can we go back alive. Otherwise, the prohibition in our bodies will activate and kill us. Death row prisoners? Suyu raised his brows. Why was Gongsun Wuxi on death row? The sixth princess, take a look at her prohibition and see if you can lift it. The sixth princess glanced at her, then at the rest of the prisoners, frowned and said, Strange, is she special? She's also a death row prisoner, but the other death row prisoners' prohibitions were all set by prospective gods. She's the only one that was set by a god. It can't be removed? Su Yu's eyes narrowed. The sixth princess shook her head. The prohibition is very special. It is mixed with the divine blood of the deity itself. Unless the divine blood of the deity is taken out, the prohibition will only be activated and she will be killed. Looking at Gongsun Wuxie's face, which was in a coma due to shock, Su Yu's heart was in turmoil. Why was she stranded in the Great Western Alliance? Why were they targeted by the gods? Let's go to the Great Western Alliance first. Su Yu's expression was a little cold. What should we do with them? The sixth princess's crystal eyes curved into a crescent. Bursting a dangerous arc, Su Yu calmly looked at them. Let them fend for themselves. Judging from the aura of the prisoners, most of them were ferocious people. Why should he save them? This place was so close to the demonic world, and with such a huge commotion, it would definitely attract other demonic soldiers. They would not be able to escape. The sixth princess said regretfully, Master is too kind. If she could, she preferred to kill people herself. Whoosh! The 9 gods condensed into a huge cloud of magic and flew towards the Great Western Alliance. Demon World, on the seashore, staring at the furious and roaring giant of the bitter sea. The deities were terrified, fearing that the giant of the bitter sea would turn around and eat them all. He's injured. It's a very serious injury. Princess Yunxia said. They had also sensed the soul-piercing roar that had shaken the universe and shocked the entire universe just now. To them, the power of the middle level was a power that reigned supreme. Even the powerful giant of the bitter sea had been injured. In the Xing River, is there such a powerful man hidden? The demonic god of 6 paths murmured. Princess Yunxia shook her head and nodded. No one can say for sure. After all, the Xing River was a part of the ancient god realm in the past. It is not impossible that there are powerful men left in the ancient god realm. Ancient god domain. All the fiend celestials were shocked. No matter who that person is, he did not intend to continue to hurt the first demon emperor. I guess he must have been restricted, otherwise he would not have given up so easily. So he is not a threat for the time being. Princess Yunxia's words changed, and her murderous intention was obvious. However, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess have escaped. They are the reincarnation clones of the first demon emperor. In the past, the undead demon emperor escaped, but now 3 more clones have escaped, which is very bad for the first demon emperor's 1,000 demon reincarnation curse. We must catch them back. If we can't, we must bring back their flesh and blood. The demonic god of 6 paths stood up. Let me lead people to catch them. The commander of the Holy Magic Hall will go in person. Everyone was surprised. For many years, the demonic god of 6 paths had never volunteered to carry out an arrest mission, nor had he stepped out of the demonic realm. Princess Yunxia shook her head. You? No, the demonic realm has just experienced chaos, and the people are not stable. It needs to be suppressed. You can't leave. No, I have to go. For the first demon emperor, and for myself. For yourself? Yes. I felt a trace of curse on Inu. The indifferent face of the demonic god of 6 paths was full of hatred. That is the mark left by my son. Princess Yunxia was stunned. The mixed child you sent to the Jojo cavern world to prove his position as a god? It was not a secret that the demonic god of 6 paths had a child with mixed blood of humans and demons. Because of this, the demon emperor was furious, and he killed the half-human, half-demon child. As a result, the demonic god of 6 paths secretly sent the child to the land of divine remains, where he grew up. Finally, he was sent to a declining cavern world to swallow the whole cavern world and become a god. Unexpectedly, a few years ago, the news of the death of the child came. Unexpectedly, the murderer was so far away. He must have used some means to hide the curse, but he can't hide it from me at a close distance. He is the murderer who killed my son. Princess Yunxia frowned slightly. She knew that the half-human, half-demon child was a knot in his heart. If she insisted on stopping him, it would be bad. In the current demonic realm, except for the first demon emperor, the demonic god of 6 paths was the strongest. After thinking for a while, Princess Yunxia nodded. Okay, I allow you to go, but only 10 deities can help you. The rest of the deities of the Holy Magic Hall would stay to calm the chaos in the demonic realm. Okay, the demonic god of 6 paths agreed. Book deity, you are familiar with the Star River. You can lead the way. Kalen, you are responsible for serving the demonic god of 6 paths. General Whitebone, you will lead a few deities who have just joined the Holy Magic Hall. Yes, finally, so you will either be captured alive or dead. Do you understand? Yes, then let's go. At the altar, watching them leave, Princess Yunxia returned to the ruins of the palace. Suyu, as soon as you enter the demonic realm, you turn the world upside down. Princess Yunxia was secretly resentful. If there was no Suyu, the coup of the princes and princesses would have been snuffed out when they were still young. As a result, Suyu planned the coup ahead of time and caught her off guard. Although the coup was quelled, it affected the hearts of many city masters. Because the news that Suyu, the 3 princes and princesses, and the 6 demonic city masters had successfully escaped from the demonic realm could not be hidden from them. After all, the heavy injuries suffered by the giant of the bitter sea could not be hidden from them as deities. From the information she had grasped, many city master deities were regretful, especially some deities who had been persuaded by Suyu's early-stage prospective deities. They felt even more regretful. Therefore, many city master deities were eager to make a move. Many deities had secretly sent spies to the vicinity of the bitter sea to find clues and find a second passage. In this regard, Princess Yunxia felt very troubled. Rebellion was not terrible. What was terrible was that they did not rebel, and it was difficult to predict when they would launch a coup again. For this reason, Princess Yunxia had to spend a lot of energy to use both kindness and power to deter them. At the same time, the forces of the Holy Magic Hall that had been sent out had to be brought back to stabilize the interior of the demonic realm. Damn it! The first Demon Emperor will lose a lot of nutrients, and the time of breaking the womb and becoming a middle-level deity will be delayed for at least 10 years. Princess Yunxia was angry and resentful. Suyu, a little boy, had hindered the ambitious plan of the first Demon Emperor, breaking the womb and becoming a middle-level deity. The evil god said that the wilderness of the Xing River could not give birth to middle-level deities. But what if all the resources in the Xing River were collected? Through the demonic soldiers of the Holy Magic Hall, all the creatures in the world would be devoured, and then the first Demon Emperor would devour these demonic soldiers, indirectly plundering the resources of the entire Xing River. Finally, with the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons, there might be a chance to break the shackles. Suyu, you'd better pray that you can escape the pursuit of the demonic god of 6 paths, where you will be in so much pain. The demonic god of 6 paths attached great importance to that child. Somewhere in the Xing River, a desolate cavern world was devoured by the demons. Yun Yazi was transparent and looked extremely weak. The roar that scared away the first Demon Emperor came at an extremely high price. Yun Yazi, whose soul had not yet recovered, was seriously injured again. Has the Demon Emperor grown so much? Yun Yazi frowned. Looking at his body, he will break the womb in less than 10 years. At that time, the entire Xing River will become his food after he is born. The situation in the Xing River is critical. If this part of the ancient god realm is destroyed, I don't know if it will alarm those outside the Xing River. In the vast Xing River, a group of demonic clouds covered the sky and the earth as they flew towards the Great Western Alliance. In the demonic cloud, Suyu sat cross-legged and Gongsun Wuxia leaned on Suyu's legs. In the midst of swaying, Gongsun Wuxia slowly woke up. When she opened her eyes, a silver-haired demon came into view. Ah! Gongsun Wuxia screamed, punched her pink fists, and shouted, "Don't eat me. I haven't taken a bath for 3 years, and I haven't changed socks for 10 years. I stink, very stink." She didn't dare to look directly at the demon in front of her and closed her eyes for a while. Suyu chuckled mischievously and said, "I don't mind. I'll throw you into boiling water and wash you clean. Then you'll be delicious." TSK, TSK. What a tender and delicious creature. I haven't tasted such a delicacy in a long time. Later, I will skewer you and roast you slowly on the fire rack. Then, I will spray the seasoning of the demon realm. TSK, TSK. It must be delicious.